Good morning. We are going to call the morning work session of the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners to order, and we will begin with our Public Works Director.
Morning.
Good morning.
We only have one item on your consent agenda this week, and that is a reimbursable work agreement between the county and the Lyle School District. And this is for work that may or may not be done, but the agreement will be in place in case things are needed. Construction program, Small Works Guardrail Project should be complete this week, and then that project will be done. That's all the repair work, and we also had a bridge rail out on Latigus Road that we fixed as well. Small Works, Courtney Road, James Dean construction. It appears it's a secured granite construction for paving the road, and it looks like they will be able to pave the whole road with a pre-level from the bottom of the hill all the way to the top, which will be good for everybody. And then they have also asked that we extend the closure, which was scheduled to open on the 15th of this month for another month to November 18th. And this will help them accomplish the rest of that upper section and then get it all paved. So there's a big benefit to everybody to do this.
Also cost savings, because if not, you're running probably 3 flaggers at $40 an hour.
Yeah, when they open it
When
up
they
to do
open
the
it
work.
up.
So
It'll
help
it's
them
a
finish.
cost savings keeping the road closed.
Does that save us money or save them
Saves
money?
us money.
Yeah, that
Because
cost.
we pay them directly, so doesn't cost them anything. I mean, they would actually make money on the deal. Not a lot, but whatever the difference is between what we pay them and what they pay the flaggers. But they would prefer not to have the rigs and the people in the way anyway, because it just provides, it's much safer when you don't have people driving through when you're trying to finish a big fill.
How much do we have left on that big fill?
We still got a couple weeks. So that's why they want to run it through the 18th, and then that way they can pave and do the whole thing. With it closed, it'll be much easier trying to go around vehicles and stuff.
When is Granite hoping to get started?
Around the end of this month.
When it starts raining.
Yeah, it should be better that way. Actually, we're paving on gravel, so it really won't hurt
it'll
anything
be
as long as
okay.
it doesn't freeze.
That's coming too.
Yeah, that's coming also. That's coming, but we're a little ways off.
So what's the plan with that part that was paved down at the bottom, the wavy part? Is that gonna get tore up, or are they gonna?
I'm not sure what they're gonna do. They haven't proposed anything. They'll either tear it up or they'll do a pre-level over the top of it. And the problem, I mean, it still costs them money, because then they'll have to, we're not paying for that because that's not part of our asphalt quantity. Right. And it'll also increase the other lane, and then you got to, taper that out to blend it in, and they'll pay for all that additional asphalt.
Right.
But it may end up being cheaper than tearing it out and redoing it.
We'll wait and see what
We'll
they
wait
want
and
to do.
see, yeah.
Okay.
So if that's okay, we need to proceed with the notifications and
Yes.
meeting the RCW. So if you're both okay with that, we'll pursue that.
You give it? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Annual striping program is complete for 2022. They finished, which is great. On the design side, courthouse, actually, this is construction side. I just never moved it up. So our crew started. Our carpenters are continuing to form and pour the concrete for the ADA ramps and curbs that we're installing ahead of the paving operations. Annex 1 lot will be complete this week. And so I'd like to talk to the directors to move their county vehicles from the bank lot and around these buildings to that lot. And so you're okay with that, I'll contact them and let them know. And I'll ask the electeds and see if they're willing to do that as well. I think it'll help out for parking around these buildings.
Good with that?
All right, thank you. Let's see. I'm still working on all the rest of the projects on this list, Rock Creek Bridge and Sundale. The federal safety projects, our designers are staking the improvements in the field. I think they'll be finished by next week with that. So those will go out for next year's construction in the spring, early spring. On the maintenance side, like I said, our crews are working on the parking lots. They are paving the Annex 1 this week. It'll be done. And then they're prepping and getting all the things ready for the lots next to the CenturyLink and our jail building as well. So we're going to lose some parking temporarily when we close the jail parking lot to do the grading and all the work there. And but opening up the other lot will help us gain some capacity. The East End crew is also working on prepping East Road with culverts and on the shoulders, and this is for the paver next summer. So they're kind of doing some of that prep work in advance. On the West End, we actually pulled one of the West End crews to come up, and they're the ones paving the Annex 1 lot, and then they'll move over and work on the jail lot. So we're trying to get all this done this month. Since Granite will be open, we know they're going to be batching to do the Courtney Road project, so that extends our time when the paving plants are open, which is working out good for us, because usually they'd be down toward the third week of this month. So, and they also finished those culverts on Trow Lane. So there were some concerns from some of the residents there about flooding, and so all those culverts that we talked about upsizing are done. The building, let's see, HVAC units, they're working through the final designs for those upgrades. We also have an ambient kit for the big chiller that sits out back that we're going to install. We had a change order months ago to do this work, but we were waiting for slack time because basically we'll have no AC during the time they're going to do that, and it's supposed to be a little cooler next week. So what that'll allow us to do is, if you remember last winter, we have a good heat gain because of the windows in the building. And so we're actually trying to run the chiller, but the chiller only goes down. You can only run it when it's so cold outside. So this will allow us to get down a little. The outdoor temperature can be cooler, and the AC will still run to cool the inside. So that'll help us out for some of those tougher days in the winter as well. Let's see. Pioneer Center. HVAC unit replacements in the locations that we've been waiting for material will start next week. And we also have a flooring replacement in the activity room where the seniors are. The carpet in there needs to be replaced. And so we have a small works contract on ad. So we'll see how that turns out. Same thing, the courthouse, small works contract for the carpet and tile in the remodel areas.
In the break room.
Yeah. Okay. Fairgrounds water line, we ordered materials for that, but like everything else, they're delayed. And so we'll see when they actually get here if we actually have time to do anything. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
They're here. No, we're dealing with DHAP now.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have got a grant for that project, and now we have to do a complete survey. I'm not sure why that would be, but we do. It used to be an easy form you could do in disturbed areas, but you can no longer do that. You literally have to consult with the tribes and do, if you're doing digging using state dollars, which is what we're doing. So our archaeologist has to prepare a report, has to consult with the tribes. So now it becomes a spring project. He said he can get it to me at the end of the fall, which is December 20th. I'm like, okay, that's good, but that doesn't help me. I can't dig in December. So. Okay. And the radio site, we're finishing. The carpenters are out here working, so we kind of put that on hold for a little while. They'll run up there. They got one more week to finish putting the metal on the sides, and we're finishing up the spec. We reviewed the specs, gave our comments back, and then we'll write the RFP and send it out. Our RFP is almost ready. We're just waiting for their technical specs to put in it. We'll be ready to go. Wish ram letter?
All yours?
Okay, you get received a wish ram letter. I've actually talked to the people numerous times. I know quite a few of them over the years. What they're talking about is the $25,000 we have on for the capital. And I made sure that they were aware, and Sharon was the one, that it doesn't do a lot of the things she lists here. It's for the playground equipment. It's a safety issue that deals with our insurance provider. That's why it made the capital list. I wouldn't have put it on there for, the capital list. It's the fact that the way the swing set sits, our old insurance provider said you can't have that there because the kids can swing out and there's not a safe falling area for them if they fall off the swing set. So we have to look at reconfiguring that. I've talked to the new insurance provider, see if they feel the same way, but my guess is they probably do. I also, when we talked about the flags, I said, I'll tell you what, here's the deal with the flags. It isn't about the light. It's about we don't have anybody down there, and we can't send anybody down there every time they decide to go put the flags at half staff. Because we'll get hammered if we miss that, or they go from half staff to full staff. I mean, we get the emails in the morning, so we can do it here and at the Pioneer Center. So I said, now, if you want to volunteer that would volunteer and say they'll do that, we could probably put some flags down. Well, you guys could pay somebody to do that. No, that isn't what I said. I said volunteer. Yeah, volunteer that we pay. And I said, no, that's like, we don't work that way. We can't pay somebody just when they go, it's too difficult. There's other labor laws. I said, you get somebody to volunteer and we can look at it. I said, we might be able to look at it during Memorial Day, but it isn't the light that's the issue. It's the fact the flags go up and down all the time. That's why we took them out of there.
It used to be more rare, but now it happens all the time. Yeah.
And I went down there and looked, there's some maintenance we need to do down there, and I'm gonna meet with the facility supervisor down there and try to get some people down there and do some cleanup around there. Just we've been a little low on staff and just had one guy that ran down there and mowed and did the major stuff, but there's some stuff we need to do.
There is, they did mention one thing that I thought was pretty eyesore when I was down there, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. And that's the first thing you see when you come in is the outhouse.
Yes, the outhouse.
Can it be like moved on the other side of the driveway?
Yes, it should go over there. I didn't realize that's an easy one. We're gonna take care of that. I did not realize that the outhouse was over there. Plus it sits at a slant. So no, we will move the outhouse. We're gonna call Bishops and have them relocate the outhouse.
And the sign.
And we're gonna fix the sign too and look at painting some of that wrought iron. And some of the stuff we need to do down there. I mean, I gotta get somebody up there. We gotta close the bird holes that they're trying to have hammered through next to our glue lamps and all that. So it's time to spend a little bit of time down there, do some maintenance.
Okay. And since Dave isn't here, I'll just wait on the Lyle crosswalk issue, so.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, well, we got one more thing, sorry. We usually hire temporaries in the wintertime for snow plowing on the west side. Do we have one in Glenwood and one in Goldendale, or one in Glenwood and White Salmon? And we'd like to look again. Now, it doesn't mean we'll be successful, but we'd like to start looking if we could, to see if we could get our 2 temporaries. We have them budgeted, so it's not an additional thing. And then we bring them in, we typically bring them in around November, and then they just work with the crews, because we've tried the other way where they're on call and you don't keep them that way. Somebody else calls them out and you can't get them. But by hiring them, it definitely saves us, because if not, we have to go to a contractor at considerable amount more money than what we pay our temporaries.
If you can find
If-
them.
Yes. If we can have permission to hire those, or at least go out and search for those people.
You wrote budget, fine with me.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day. Next up, we have our Public Health Director, Aaron Quinn.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So as you know, our health officer was appointed to a regional health office position. The state told us they would cover, once she transitioned into her position, they let us know that they would cover our county as far as health officer. They moved her to in one of the northeast corners.
She's in charge of a regional area.
Yeah, so they set up so that there was a regional health officer for, I think we're in the southwest region, so there's a shared health officer. So for an example, if your health officer went on vacation or they resigned, that you'd have this extra layer of coverage.
Was that an application process with the state, or did the state
It
reach
was.
out and hire?
It was an,
Pick 7 people, or just the people that applied?
it was an application process. They went
I
through
was
that.
curious about that either. And then this fits perfectly into that, so it answered my question.
Yep. So anyway, so she's transitioned. She was assured that we would have coverage from the state. I've been going back and forth with them. As of Friday, they required a letter from the Board of Health saying that I needed assistance before they would even consider helping us. So I'm asking for you to sign a letter today that states that we need assistance so that we can have that coverage until we can recruit our own health officer. Another piece of that is we did reach out to a couple of individuals. They felt our rate was not appropriate, our rate of reimbursement. So I've reached.
Services is too low.
Correct. The one for Pacific County was almost twice what we pay. I've asked from a couple of other counties to kind of see what their rate is, so we can look at that and see if that's something we need to adjust. We are a very low maintenance county / department. So I'm hard.
How many phone calls did you have with, in the last 2 months, with the, kind of thing? But I guess let me ask this different. During the peak of the crisis of COVID, how many conversations a month did you have with our public health officer?
At least once a week, if not more. Me personally, and that does not include my staff. So, and in September, because she transitioned, I promised not to call her, so I can't give you September statistics because that's not a good
Back
reflection.
up during the crisis.
Yes.
And I would imagine on most years, if we're not dealing with a crisis, how often would you normally call? Once a month, twice a month?
Maybe. It just depends. If you have a rabies exposure with 7 young children, then that's, we might spend 3 or 4 hours worth of time on phone calls back and forth, like how to best do that. If it's a month like, that was September actually, but there are months where there isn't. And so our contract is actually written, so there's a minimum reimbursement, understanding that there's months where we don't utilize a lot of their time, but that there was months that we would actually, they would, kind of earn all of that back.
And that's kind of where I'm getting to, is we're thinking about it with the attorneys and actual price per hour averaging. And I will be looking at this one the same way.
So in order to get the Board of Health's authorization and signature, we would need to call a Board of Health meeting, or is this something that the chair of the Board of Health can just do?
I think you could probably poll them and ask them to sign that I don't know what your.
I reached out to Paul on Sunday. Sunday's willing to sign it. I think Paul may be out of town. We've signed letters like this before. This isn't my preference, but
Do you have a space for each signature person on there? He's that Board of Health person? Okay.
So I would say, yeah, as long as you can reach a consensus of signatures,
Yep.
Yes.
the letter is valid.
I can,
If you can't, then it isn't.
yes.
You think you can.
That's true. It's very fair. I
Well-
hope I can. Because we did, so we were trying to work with the state to get this set up by October 1st, because that's the second date we gave Dr. Person as an end date. She very graciously agreed to stay on. The implications of her not doing that, we would have canceled all of our clinics, because without that health officer in line, we can't do vaccines, we can't do family planning. So without that oversight, we can't do our business. Any other questions? Did have one applicant for the position. Said your pen, you looked like you were ready.
I'm just being a little bit of a drama queen today. I probably should have read it to make sure it was what you said it was. Not that I don't trust you, but I try not to sign just randomly.
Thank you.
So that will go to the state this afternoon, and then,
So she'll stay on at least until they appoint someone.
yes, she will.
And we should have our own little regional health person to fall back on now, if for some reason she's busy or something there too.
We should. It's because you all signed this for me. Because apparently we can't access them until
We have our own.
this,
No, until
no,
we've
until
asked.
you've asked for help.
What happens regularly if she's on vacation and we have our normal vaccine clinics and all that?
That's fine, because she's still the signing authority.
Okay,
Right, so, but if her contract's done, we don't have anyone in
in the position.
the position,
Got it.
so. She has actually not gone on vacation that I'm aware of since COVID, so anyway. And then just a quick update for the crisis services, everything is on, I think the consent agenda today. I'll be gone for 10 days, but everything is lined out for that 10 days, so barring any unforeseen, everything is taken care of and in process and should be good to go, so.
Famous last words.
I know. That's why I said barring any unforeseen circumstances, I have wrapped it up quite nicely. So unless there's any other questions, I do have a timeline. They will be doing interviews the last week of October for any approvals, and I think that positions will be advertised starting tomorrow, so one of them. Do you have
Questions?
questions about that? Okay. That's all I had then. Thank you.
Don't mind the drama queen. Thank you, Director Quinn, and thank you for all your work on the mental health project. Well,
Well,
you have executive today or not?
no.
Okay. Next up, HR
Et al., HR et al.
Et al.
Et al. Good morning, Commissioners. I don't think our report's going to be near as interesting as slanting outhouses that the Public Works had in their update, but we'll try and keep you amused. Randy is not here today and Casey's not here today, and last we talked, she wasn't going to say anything, but that could,
I'm just here for moral support.
so, but I want to start off with IT. We've, Jordan Woolery started on September 26th. The IT department is back to being fully staffed. And we're happy about that. First time in, I don't know, 7, 8 months. And I want to thank the commissioners again for allowing us to change the org chart in that department so we can basically grow our own. And other departments are doing that as well. And I think that's going to be a key tool in our ability to staff and retain some of these positions that we've all struggled with in the past. So thank you again for that. I know Randy's, the IT manager's goal is, I'd say vision, but it's more action than that, is to, within the year, have the entire IT staff completely cross-trained and all able to do different aspects. They've been to some degree siloed in the past, which And I think you can do that with primary and secondary responsibilities, but we know we're not going to get additional staff in the future. We know that the demands of IT only grow. And so having a completely cross-trained department gives us more, as well as outsourcing some of the things that we've talked to you in the past about looking at anyway. Human resources, fleet management software. So yesterday I was informed the sheriff's department is not going to pursue using the fleet management software. I talked to Sharon. She has asked for more formal estimates on the cost of the to use the software in her fleet. And so we're getting that information for her. So not to put words in her mouth, I think she's interested. She just wants to know what the bottom line is going to be. And so we'll provide that for her.
Any idea why the sheriff was excited for it and now isn't?
I think they just, I can't speak for the sheriff's department. I think tight budgets, they wanted to allocate that $6,500 to other things. And so I think it was a budgetary issue, though I know they're going to be here today, so they may be able to address that further.
They are.
And then in solid waste,
No, good call.
we'll utilize the software in the solid waste rigs. And at that point, I think that's the only two departments that are planning on using this going forward. So I'm not sure where else to go with the fleet management. I will say that Shelby and Jeff and I put a lot of time in upfront to review and get it to where the one we're test driving, I do think it's a lost opportunity. I mean, I started out with no understanding or knowledge of fleet management software and have kind of come to believe that it could be a valuable tool in managing our assets.
I just want to make it, I guess I could say clear, or concise, or to the point, or it is my understanding that as the commissioners hold the purse strings, they control the budget. And they then could add, if they so choose, the money for this fleet management software in every department they wanted. I believe the vehicle, regardless of which department or office it's in, is actually owned by this county. It is the property of this board. So if this board chose to put fleet management software in it, it legally could. Now we can verify that legal opinion with our prosecutor if we so chose, but that's my opinion on that issue.
And then before I move on, just mention there has been some discussion about possibly taking one of the solid waste vehicles or any surplus vehicle and establishing at least one fleet vehicle to get started. If that's something you want to do, then we're going to need to determine in the budget process, because we have to repost it anyway, I believe, and put some funds in the commissioner's budget or wherever you want to put them for the cost of this fleet vehicle. So I just don't want to lose track of that, that if that's something we want to do. 2023, we need
I
to do.
figured that would be a topic for discussion on Thursday's
Okay.
workshop.
I just didn't want to
because
lose track of it.
Think of three, and yes, I would like those out of those departments and out of those budgets at the start of the year to make it nice and clean.
Okay, I just didn't want to lose track of them. And I think Brenda's here. Brenda, you want to come up and, Brenda has a request for the commissioners, and I told her it made perfect sense for her.
That's fine. Jen, you don't have to. So I submitted a request for, to fill a payroll position, so I've made some changes in my office, so anyway,
Because the payroll clerks moved
moved over to the accountant position.
And if I may, I'm not
Yeah,
putting words
no,
in your
go
mouth.
for it.
I think that's another example of
Mhm.
growing our own.
Yep,
Maybe eventually into that chief accountant position with some
Hopefully.
additional training and experience.
Yeah.
So I think that's,
she's, I put her in the senior accountant too, and hopefully she'll go on with her education, and if that's what she wants, and she may end up being a CPA, who knows, but,
she has a degree in finance.
oh,
so-
absolutely, yes, she's very qualified.
So again, I think another good example of hard to fill position, growing our own and
Mhm,
a very known quantity,
mhm.
which is good. Always.
Does that mean all of our accounting positions in the county are now filled?
No, payroll's open.
Oh, other than
And not the
payroll?
senior, the CPA/, that one still isn't as of today, but this may be a plan to
Mhm.
Move
direction.
that in that direction.
So your request is permission to fill the payroll.
Mhm. Yeah,
Perfect.
so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Did you want to?
A couple new things. Well, one, just to highlight on the consent agenda today, item number 5 is a resolution renaming Department 27 from chemical dependency to behavioral health and creating Fund 145 for behavioral health. Once that is approved, we will work on getting an emergency supplemental put together in the next couple of weeks and posted for public hearing, and go forward with that. And then last week, I received notice that we have additional revenue coming in. This is stemming off of the American Rescue Plan. This is the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund. So the American Rescue Plan appropriated $2 billion to Treasury across 22 and 23 to provide payments to eligible revenue sharing counties and tribes. So we are a revenue sharing county. And so our allocation is looking like 2 different payments of $172,981. The deadline for submission of this is January 31st of 23. We should be receiving our first payment 4 to 5 business days after I submit. Once I get approval from you, submit, there's a award letter that needs to be signed by the chairman. And then the second payment will be, sometime after the first of the year, depending on when you file for a submission.
Possibly good news going into Thursday's budget discussion.
At minimum, $350,000 additional revenue for those counties who do not submit to receive this. Their funds will be reallocated and distributed to the counties who didn't submit for the award. So that will show up, and any additional revenues would show up in our second payment.
It's also worth noting, since you referenced the emergency supplemental, that is not county funds. Those are funds that are coming from a different source. So they will not impact the budget for 2023 that you're currently working on. I think it's just good to mention that as often as possible. It's
Nobody's listening.
nobody's listening.
So will you be able to get the emergency supplemental done by the time we need to hire and start?
That is the goal.
Okay.
Yeah, the timing has to be perfect and get really going by Friday for me on my end of things, to get notice to the paper and then get the hearing going. And it would be the goal date to have the budget all in by November 6th.
There's also another item on the consent agenda, and that is approving the DCR job description and salary placement. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer that. I will submit by Thursday the remaining 5 positions, and they'll be before you next Tuesday. We will, pending approval in the consent agenda for the DCR position, it'll be posted tomorrow. And then these other positions, should they be approved in next week's consent agenda, will be posted the following week. So near as I can tell, all the pieces are moving together and aligning for November 6th. So though Director Quinn and I often talk about, and I think you've mentioned it, what is it we're missing? But I don't think much of anything. I think everybody's pulling together really good to check and cross-check each other's work and make sure we're not missing anything. So, and then finally for HR, the CPI is for August, Seattle was 9%. Our union contracts max out at 4%. So since we know that, we're going to go ahead and start updating all those wage schedules for January 1st. But I just wanted to mention that to you, that it had been 10%, dropped to 9%, but with gas back up to $6 a gallon, and depending what OPEC does Thursday, you could go back up to $10, not talk about it, yeah. So anyway, so that's just a heads up. And then in solid waste, I should get the draft of the consultant's review this week. I was supposed to get it last week, so I've encouraged her to get that to me this week. We did meet with Ecology to discuss adjusting the grants. I had originally intended to put one of the grants on today's consent agenda, and I didn't. I want to wait to get the report. I don't want to prematurely tell the state we're going to turn something back and then have her report say we shouldn't turn it back. So, but we do, and the next week have to notify Ecology of, I mean, clearly we didn't have staff to work on these grants for at least 3 or 4 months. So we know we're going to have to make some reductions so they can redistribute the funds to other counties. So it's just how much. Dave, Kevin, and I have a meeting with a team from Ecology next week to discuss the horse thief. So that's been scheduled, the closure of horse thief. So more to report after that phone call. And the compost procurement ordinance that I brought to you a couple Tuesdays ago, it's been determined by the state that we do not qualify for that. So and that the PA had determined that as well, that he didn't think we met the obligations to be required to put a compost procurement ordinance in place.
So we were told by someone at the state we needed to do it, and then now
We
the
were told by
state.
Ecology, correct?
Yeah, I got a letter saying you're subject to this, and I sent it to the PA, and he was reviewing it. And then I got another letter from Ecology saying, upon further review, you don't qualify. So
From the same
person.
I think we were advised 6 months ago. If I go back and check my memory, there was somebody that sat there 6 months ago and was telling us the initial phases of that. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So again, I wasn't speaking for the PA, but I think he'd come to the same conclusion, or was going to come to the same conclusion. So that's off the table for now. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer for any of the aforementioned topics or subjects.
No questions here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, Jen. And thank you to both of you, as well as your staff, Brenda, for everything that everybody has done to all row in the same direction with this mental health program. It goes to show that we can really do anything when we're all working together. So thank you all. You have anything else for the?
Sure. I can give you a little update. So I had my Washington Rural Counties Insurance Pool Conference.
Oh, how'd that go?
Was interesting.
Are they gonna miss us?
I don't know if they're gonna miss us, but they're now finally listening to me. As you know, I've been in that group for 2 years. I've brought up things that concern me with the pool, to the pool. I get the, yeah, whatever, you're the new guy, go sit in the corner. Which is one of the reasons we're no longer there. Well, I think they're realizing real fast that they probably should listen to me 2 years ago, because the way they do things is old, outdated, and archaic, and maybe potentially needs to change. Some of those things are our adjuster, our claims guy, Jonathan. It's set up in that insurance contract that 6% of our county bill of $1.4 million is what he gets paid. 6%. That's $85,000 for you and me and anybody listening.
Whoa.
So you have to ask, does he do $85,000 of the work? Maybe. But then you have to look at other counties like Ferry County, and they're paying their guy $45,000 because it's mandated in the contract 6%. So does that insurance agent do 6%, or should they cash us a big check? Especially in poor counties that don't have the money, when the other insurance company manages to do everything without the agent. So they haven't really been interested in looking at that until now, and kind of once the rest of the members of this group found out this weekend or this last week that I was leaving, or we were leaving as a county.
They didn't know.
Some of them did not.
Okay.
And even at the meeting, they were told that it's still potential. It's not final. That's what they were told from the insurance carrier, the insurance pool. And I'm like, no, it's
We're
that
sending
deal.
you a
We-
check for gap
We
insurance.
signed, yeah, they're just hoping we'll change our mind. And it's so interesting to say the least, but that's one of them. The other one that I've had a problem with that insurance company is they only have one way to insure something, and that's full replacement value. So, and that's fine if you want to replace or insure your courthouse or the new building for replacement value, that makes total sense. But why should you have to spend $65,000 on a train paying replacement value when there's no way you're ever going to replace the train? So you would think you'd be able to just,
6,000.
whatever it is, but you'd think you'd be able to just set a dollar amount to pay for the cleanup if that's what you wanted to do. But everything they do is full replacement value. And bringing that up again, there was 3 other commissioners that felt the same way because they all had pieces of property that they wish they weren't paying full coverage on. The automotive coverage was another one that they're going to look into. So essentially, they're finding their premiums are going up really, really, really fast.
What is the rate this year?
They
expected?
didn't mention once again.
Really? Don't they usually each year? That's when they
Before
say.
now, yes. I'm sure that will be mentioned when because normally they do the budget part before now. The budget part was pushed off to this week. They're having a special meeting this week, even though we all met last week. But this week, there's also one less person that will be there. Whether there's any correlations of that, I don't know, because I still haven't got an answer. I think they reached out to each county individually and asked them or told them what their increase rates were. Because, yeah, normally I would know what the increase in rate is. I would know what the fund balance was, but there's been no talks of the board on that issue all year.
You don't know what your fund balance is all year?
Nope.
Is there a subcommittee, a finance budgeting subcommittee or something?
There's an executive board, essentially the president, vice president, treasurer that does look at bills and claims on a weekly/monthly basis. But other than doing the budget in the fall, that's when you know when your fund balance is or whatnot, without any other issues. So anyway, moral of the story, they would love to have us back. They're adjusting some of their stuff, including tools for internet and so that you can better monitor and assess your risks and whatnot. So they're stepping into the Stone Age, which is good. They're stepping out of the Stone Age. As far as the conference goes, hotel was nice. If you liked open bars, it was nice. I'm not a drinker, so yeah, it was a party to say the least. And
Was it?
so I didn't partake for the most part. Other than that, I won't get into the fun parts of it.
Okay.
At least not with my mic on. Other than that, actually, I got one more for you.
Okay.
Landfill numbers.
No.
So we know the offers have been stuck at 9.2, 9.3, 9.2, 9.3. That's what they keep offering. We shot back your counter offer last time, which I believe was 9.5.
9.6.
I told them that they may have 2 votes at that number, but I'm at a higher number, and I don't know if the board is willing to do a contract ununanimously. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't.
How did they handle that?
And I told them what my number was, and they really didn't like that. He came back and reoffered it 9.55.
So what's that numbers?
Huh?
What'd that number work out to be?
As far as, it was, I have it in there. I want to say 2.1 million tons at 430, which 430 is the blended rate between Snohomish and the regular tipping fees, and adding, somehow they calculate that as a blended rate. And then I think it's, was 215 a ton for over 2.1 million. I think that's what the offer, I'd have to go look, but I believe that's what it was. It came up at 5.5. And I told him that I would present that to the board for your two's opinion. He thought it was you that was the one standout. And I told him, no, it's me. And it kind of surprised him. So anyway, I told him I would present that to the board and whatnot. We also discussed before that the roll-offs that I want for code compliance and whatnot. And unbeknownst to me, he had conversations with Litter Crew before that about potentially putting a roll-off up in areas like, let's call it Glenwood, that's far away from a transfer station. So if they want to capitalize on working Glenwood for a couple of weeks, they have someplace to put the trash right there without a whole bunch of long drives. And to see if Republic was interested in dropping a container to some of these far off areas sometimes. They've got a lot of, what do you want to call them, when everybody throws all their junk off? Illegal dumps up in Trout Lake past the Ranger District up there. So for things like that, they were questioning whether Republic could drop a box out there, and Republic's more than willing. Anyway, with the code compliance thing, which I've been bugged about, Republic has agreed to provide 12 roll-off boxes a year that can either be used by litter cleanup or code enforcement to be used accordingly. And
Are these 20s or 40s?
I believe there were 20s. They don't have 40s. The 40s are all at solar farms. They're 20s and to be used at the discretion of the county. So that should help as code compliance has a problem. They can call in a roll-off and drop a roll-off off and hopefully get some of these properties cleaned up. I shot for a higher number than that, but they're having issues with truck drivers. So any more than that would be a promise they probably can't fulfill because they couldn't fit that many more into their schedule without hiring 5 or 7 more truck drivers. I did question, if you remember, the economic development part of the contract puts in things for like spring cleanups and stuff like that, and helping the dumpsters and white salmon and bingen and whatnot. And so part of a contract negotiation is deleting the economic development section.
Right.
So I wanted to clarify that there was going to be any problems. And they're like, oh, no.
That'll come out of the 12 boxes, I'm sure.
Nope. That's totally separate. They do that not through the contract, but through their charitable giving side of their organization. So, and that reminded me that that's exactly the case. So what normally happens with these cleanups is the group essentially applies through Republic, different side of Republic
Right.
than we're used to dealing with, to get that. And the box people are actually a different subsidiary of Republic than we're used to dealing with as well. So that made me feel better about that one anyway. But so that's where we were. And then this morning, I just got a message because he also was, when I told him I didn't like his 9.55 number, but I'd present it to the board, he said, don't present it to the board, pull it. I'll get back to you with a new number.
Okay.
And he just sent that. And that number is 9.691, so it's 9,000 short of 9.7. And that number is, it's an interesting, this 2.175 tons at 430.
Yeah, but then it goes $2.
Correct. But you have to understand both these numbers are gonna get CPI next year anyway.
Right,
So they're not
but
gonna
it should have
pay.
been 216, right?
Um,
Because what was it supposed to be? It was supposed to be 436 or something?
446 is the actual tipping fee number. There was no
Currently.
math that came to the 216 or 217. That was essentially, I believe, you applying CPI on the original two number we talked about.
Right.
So it's not that that really matters, because I had him at a different negotiation at 225. So I don't think he cares between 2 or 225. And we can probably adjust, we can put that at 225 and lower the tonnage to hit the same 6.7 number, if that's what you're more comfortable with. I just told him I don't care how he gets to the 6.7 number, just get to the 6.7 number.
So that's what you wanted.
No, I told him just he has to get to 6.7 to have me remotely close to on board.
Okay.
So, but
You
if,
think there's still more room for negotiation?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, you have to think we don't necessarily have to negotiate. We could say, too bad, so sad. But, I mean, there's part of me that thinks you're a $46 billion corporation, and if you want to grow in Washington, you're going to grow in Washington, regardless what I do here or don't do here. Now, there's two factions of Republic, and one of those is take volume, which obviously volume helps us. And one of them is reduce your volume, reduce your expenses, reduce your employees, reduce all that, and only take fancy stuff like special waste, contaminated dirt, all this stuff out of Seattle that they're getting $100 or $120 a ton for, because that's where they can capitalize and make the most profit. But the other one is, the bigger push is for total tons, and that takes an investment in rail yards and switching yards. And I really think, since I kind of gave them the idea of the looking at the other section of the state over there that is controlled by somebody else, I think that's what gave them some motivation to think that there's potential for growth here. And with switching some of the Mason and Jefferson and whatnot onto trucks to potentially move over down there, really it only frees up 100,000, but what it does is it allows them to put trains together faster and move trains faster. And right now, if a train takes 12 days to come and go, if they can hook them up and make it more convenient to BNSF, which there are negotiations with them too, that we can do trains every 3 days instead of every 12 days, we can potentially increase the volume, not only here, but over there. They're also thinking they might, if they work on that landfill, they might be able to get the contract, the county contract. So anyway, there could be potential for 250,000 tons in that landfill. Which, yeah, if it's $2, it's only 500 grand to us, but at 500 we don't have. The kicker is SUMAS, and it's whether they want to invest $7 million, $6 million, $7 million into SUMAS to try to bring down that Canadian waste. And that's my argument. So if we do this and lower our fee by, this would be the equivalent of 400 grand of the CPI, of the new, reducing it from 900 to 500. Why would that encourage you to do SUMAS? Why does my 500 grand matter to your 700 or 7 million? And I guess their argument is they want us to have skin in the game, prove we're a partner, blah, blah, blah. I still look at it that I believe, a lot of me believes that we're gonna get the same result no matter what we do. We're gonna get the same tonnage, we're gonna get the same everything regardless of anything we do out of this. I really think that, because there is no guarantee that even if we do this, that they're gonna do SUMAS, other than, I really think we're going to. So, but same deal, if we choose not to do anything, are they just gonna say, no, now you're being a jerk, we're not doing SUMAS? We're not gonna grow in Washington, we're not gonna make more money. We don't care about corporate profits, we're just gonna go after you. I just don't see it, so I don't know, I'm talking way too much.
So any of that special waste, that $100 of, ton stuff, they still take some of that here?
Yeah, but it's a very small number. For the most part, Republic has so many county bid stuff that they don't have time, space, or trains for most of that special waste. It's a whole nother issue. So they just don't go after it.
Yet.
Does it
But
potentially,
if there's
do they?
part of them that are pushing for that, is that something that should be in that contract, that if they're gonna bring special waste that's $100 a ton, that we get
That's-
a kicker on that?
That's something that we have it in our contract now, and that'd be a good question to have for Steve when he's here, because we do have it in the contract now that our special waste, whatever it is, I left my book in there. I read it off to you last week. It's like $80 for asbestos and $60 for this, and I don't know exactly how that works or exactly
But is that supposed to stay in the contract?
what our number is. No, that's supposed to be removed.
So is it, I'm gonna give you something over here, but this is what my hand's really doing?
Absolutely.
And is that something that, I mean, if
That's what I said. You have to.
there's still 500,000 sitting there on the table, or 400,000 sitting on the table, what else can we get out of that? Other than 12 boxes? a
Oh, no,
year?
there was a counter. Since they're doing that, they're asking that PI be placed on the transfer station starting in January 24, that matches the PI language that's included in the host fee agreement. So they want to use the CPI schedule that's in the host fee agreement to put a CPI on residents taking trash to the transfer stations. So you think about that, and this year was a whatever, call it 9% CPI. If the
But we don't pay
public-
for transfer stations.
the public pays $7 when they dump their trash. The
Per
CPI,
yard.
right? The CPI would.
But that's only supposed to cover the trucking costs.
The CPI would, if we agree, the CPI would go onto that, and now this year the public would have paid whatever $6.70, and that would be a yearly CPI. Now that $7 apparently hasn't been raised for 10 or 12 years. It is a negotiated agreement here between us and them separately
Of what
outside of the
of what
contract.
the trucking cost is.
Outside of the contract. So it is still my opinion that's just that's something that they've always wanted. And I don't think that we have to give that, nor am I too interested myself in giving that. So I personally don't even
We're already-
plan on responding to that.
We're already given 400,000.
400. That 400 buys us goodwill. It buys us more contractor boxes for bigger, deeper community cleanups. It gets us contract boxes so that we can hopefully do something with some of our code compliance that we've never been able to do before. So there is a plus. It's a very expensive plus for 400 grand.
I mean, you could take that same 400 grand if you got the money and think about how many cleanups we could do with 400 grand.
You can't do them on private property, that's the public funds. we as a county can't buy a box and put it on somebody's property and tell them to clean it up.
Right.
So this is a way around that. So it's just a matter of, yeah, is it worth 400 grand now? But, so I said, you're gonna have to get me at 9.7 for me to even consider. My original ask was, I think, 9.85.
I think we need to probably, I mean, if they're still getting 400,000, we need to talk about special waste then too.
I don't disagree. I think, and before we say yes to everything, we as a board should go through that contract section by section, just to make sure we're not missing something or overseeing something. Yeah.
Keep working on it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I guess I would say it just comes down to, and we can question this, the difference between the 430 and the 446 isn't much, but what it does, if you keep the same bottom line, is reduce that tonnage. So right now you're at 2.175. If you go to 447, you're only down at 2 or 2.5, which gives you a higher rate on a base rate. So if there was a down cycle, if there was all of a sudden we're not getting, 2.2, 2.3 million tons, which we have every year for 5 years, so I can't imagine it wouldn't, you would get a higher rate by getting a higher, lower tonnage. So I don't know if that's worth pushing to change this 430 back to a 446 and lower that tonnage number. That's the way I would rather see it, and I think that might be a counter after Thursday.
Okay, well, do what you think is right. And interesting, now they don't know who is the bad cop.
And they were confused there.
Good.
Because they definitely thought you were the bad cop until they realized it was me.
All right. Anything else?
Nothing I can think of.
Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to recess for lunch.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recess for lunch and be back at 1 o'clock.
I will step down and second the motion. All those in favor on recessing for lunch, say aye.
Right.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you all for signing on, and we will see you all at 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. We are going to call the regular work session in the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners to order. Let the record show 2 commissioners are present. Commissioner Sauter is absent. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the business agenda as presented with one add-on under new business, an agreement for provision of services by and between Beacon Health and Klickitat County Public Health Department for the purpose of providing $345,629 in funding to support the Klickitat County in development of local crisis responder programs. For clarification, this is state money coming into the county, not county money being expended.
I will step down and second the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the commissioner meeting minutes for September 20th, 2022 as presented.
I will step down and second that motion as well. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we will move into citizen comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual. Commissioners will respond after all the citizens have had a chance to give their comments. We will begin, as always, in the room. Is there anybody who would like to provide public comment? Not today? Okay, we will go online. Is there anybody online who would like to provide public comment? If so, star six to unmute yourself, raise your hand, turn your video on. I am not seeing anyone. Well, we have things that we could be doing. If you would like to provide public comment, please just get our attention. Sherry.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Yes, thank you. It's a beautiful day in Klickitat County. I'm sure the mountains look great and the view is beautiful out there around Goldendale. Hope it stays that way. I would like to talk about industrial solar in Klickitat County and the need for our county to have solar ordinances. As you've seen, as you've been provided information, other counties in the state of Washington have wrote ordinances, solar ordinances to protect their counties and put moratoriums in place to write solar ordinances. I feel it is, since you've been given so much information on industrial solar, and let me clarify before you spread misinformation. I'm not asking you to ban industrial solar from Klickitat County. I'm not saying that, and I never have. What I'm asking is for regulations on siting to protect the environment, to protect people, to protect farmlands, and to protect the city of Goldendale and all the people that live there and enjoy it. So we've provided you information regarding lithium batteries and the dangers of them, excuse me, not your cell phone batteries. And I'm very offended by the mockery of saying that you're sitting around lithium batteries and you're not afraid. We're talking about large scale industrial lithium batteries, the sizes of warehouses. And for you to say that these lithium batteries aren't coming to Klickitat County, so there's no reason to address them and you mock the dangers of them. Let me remind you of Morris, Illinois, in the 3-day fire, 4,000 people evacuated from the town. The EPA is still working on the toxic cleanup. These are facts. Lithium battery fires happen, but you refuse to look at that and you mock the dangers of them. Klickitat County has had preliminary proposal from Carriger, Cypress Creek. It includes large industrial lithium battery storage. Lund Hill originally had 40, well, I'm not going to say, it had large industrial lithium battery and mysteriously disappeared. But obviously that will come back when all the solar projects are done out there. So I'm asking you gentlemen to do your job to protect the citizens, to protect the county, write solar ordinances, put a moratorium back in place. The industrial foreign entities are here to take advantage of our lack of ordinances. And you've admitted with our lack of ordinances, which are laws, FSEC can do what they want. I'd like you to address why you won't give the county solar ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bosque. Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment? Star 6 to unmute yourself, raise your hand, turn your video on. either in the room or online? Jump up and down, get our attention. Pat Arnold.
Oops, can't see me. All right, there we go. Two things I think you're aware about of the event, this 10th anniversary of the actual opening of the river, of the White Salmon River on Friday at Northwestern Park, and a habitat walk and some other things starting at 9, and then a program starting at 10:30, and salmon if you register, salmon bake if you register. And I'm sure you've got an invitation, but I just want to bring your attention to it because it's going to be a really fine day. We did this 10 years ago as a group effort. This one is sponsored by the Yakima, and it should be a really a fine day. The other thing is that some of us in the Trout Lake Community Council met last week, I guess, on the phone with a McKed staffer who handles the broadband stuff. And it's apparent, I think we all knew that the way the FCC surveys have been done, they've shown that a place like Trout Lake is well served because there are some people in rural center who are well served. And so they mark the whole census block or all the census blocks as well served. I think we've all known that. We know it doesn't work. We know it's not a realistic reflection of the situation in the rural parts of the county. Apparently those regulations are beginning, those definitions may be changing. There was some talk about that at the meeting a few weeks ago. But it is really critically important for people in the county to do that survey that McKed has on their website so that we can get accurate numbers about speeds. It's really getting to be a crisis for many people who live outside of rural centers that just cannot access adequate service. So I would like to ask if there's something that you as a board of commissioners can do to encourage. I know you've done it in the past, but I think it's time to ramp up again and try to get really a lot of responses to that survey. So those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arnold. Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment? In the room? Online? Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment? Oh, sorry, Pat. *6 to raise your, *6 to unmute yourself, raise your hand, turn your video on. Okay, we have, 0088.
Yeah, Delmer Eldred, Goldendale. I would like to know what you guys have done to improve the economy in Klickitat County the last 2 years. I mean, what is it? How much money have you guys generated through programs that you have approved of? And, to offset some of the spending that is going on. I just wondered, it seems like you're spending a whole lot more than you're taking in, and you haven't done anything to improve the economy. So I just wondered if you could give me one example or two of things that you have done that has made an economic benefit to this county. I'm waiting to hear you answer.
As always, Mr. Eldred, we will respond back when you've used your time and everything.
When nobody can ask you a question again. Okay, thank you.
I'm guessing that was the end of your public comment then. Is there anybody else who would like to provide public comment? Seven, 211.
Greg Wagner with Cease. It's been brought to your attention multiple times and again last week as to the dangers of lithium-ion batteries. These dangers are undisputable even though you refuse to listen. You continue to ignore the truth and place the citizens in danger. Your job responsibility is the safety, health, and welfare of the citizens. Again, something you have failed at. There are batteries planned in the Cypress Creek Carriger project, 2 acres of lithium-ion batteries that total 63 million watts of stored energy. If and when that explodes, it's going to kill a number of people. You're going to have firefighters respond to the fire, and when the battery bank blows, you can possibly kill some of our local firefighters. Will you gentlemen be the ones that go to the loved one's home and tell them how their loved one firefighter was killed? I doubt it. The batteries are in Klickitat County's future, and they will endanger the safety and health and welfare of all the citizens. When will you do your jobs as public servants and protect the citizens of the county? To neglect the battery issue and laugh it off as a joke, as all 3 of you have done, is negligence of your job and dereliction of your duties. You are paid to represent the citizens of the county, not the solar corporations. I'd like for you to start doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment? In the room or online? Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment? Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment? Last chance. I am not seeing anyone. Mr. Christopher, would you like to respond to any of the comments?
Okay. First I'll say with Pat, the 10th anniversary of Conradin, I did get the email yesterday, the invite. I do have some job interviews to sit through that day, so I'm not exactly sure timing wise whether I'm going to be able to make it, but if I can, I'll be there. And I agree with you on more input on the broadband study. I don't know that it's necessarily going to matter, but I think it would definitely give us a better evaluation of the actual overall, because my area is the same way. They said, oh, you know, you're served just fine. And in all reality, if you want to pay 120 to 140 bucks for Starlink, you are served just fine, but that is an awful high price. To Sherry, asking about lithium ion batteries and education on lithium ion batteries. I, for one, believe education is buyer beware. I think depending on what websites you read, you can get a biased opinion of any topic on one way or the other. Personally, I will be attending a training from a university of higher education on lithium batteries and understanding the technology hazards and safety risks of. So I get my information from higher education, not from what websites seem to want to post. Dell, what have we done for the economy? And your quote that we haven't done anything to improve the economy. Sir, that is a wrong quote. I was instrumental in receiving, or at least pushing Republic Services to build a truck yard in the Goldendale Industrial Complex, which is or the industrial park, which is the first new construction in that park in 10 years. So I would say that's kind of a big deal. Now you can argue how many people will employ and all that all you want, but it's still the first new construction in 10 years in that industrial park. What has this board done? Well, this board hired a small business development specialist, which I don't exactly know the number off the top of my head because we haven't been updated in about 2 months. But if I remember correctly, in 6 months, she has brought forth something like $2.7 million worth of money into this economy by working with multiple small businesses to grow their business and secure their businesses, including funding for them and what have you. So there is a ton there, not counting what our economic development department does every single day. Like just 3 days ago, getting final sign off from the Fed to put in an aviation maintenance training facility at the Dallasport Airport, which, if I remember correctly, will employ about 54 people and also give our juveniles coming out of high school a potential career, a high-paying career, I might add, if they don't want to go sit in an office and be a lawyer or a doctor or something. We're also currently working on green energy education training. And the Klickitat County Public Economic Development Authority Board just authorized the use of $0.09, which is a state, call it a rebate to the county for poor counties. So this is state money that comes back to the county to use for economic development. They authorized that money to be used to hire another economic development employee, because the way we have done the math, the employee we have has essentially brought in about $2 million for the county in the last year. So if we can hire one more of those and bring in another $2 million for the businesses in this county, I see that as a positive. So I would add all those things together, and those are just what I can think of off the top of my head, to prove we have not done anything to improve the economy as an absolute non-factual statement, sir. Mr. Wagner, I would say your quote of ignoring the truth and laughing it off as a joke about the batteries, I disagree with you, sir. I believe the batteries are a issue and a potential problem, which is why they are not permitted in this county, and why I'm going to a course of higher education as opposed to just reading the internet. So again, I would say your statement is non-factual and non-truthful as well. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Christopher. I think you did a great job summing most of that up. Of the first things that came to my mind as well, with regards to the economic development that the county has put in. Another piece of economic development that we have to think about, every time we build a road, every time when we built this building, every time the county spends money, that is economic development. That is the multiplier effect of money. That is your dollars being reinvested back in your county. You have to think of the 250 plus employees that we have in this county. They buy their groceries here. They spend their time here. They spend their money here. We are all taxpayers. Everything that we do, why, yes, a good portion of that money or a certain portion of that money comes from your property taxes. Mr. Eldred, I did receive your email, and yes, I did respond to it on this same line of thought about increasing taxes. Klickitat County has only taken the county portion for roads and the county has only taken the 1% allowed by statute. We have not went out and asked for a tax increase that I can remember of in my memory. We have always lived within our means. You don't see that with all your junior taxing districts. You don't see that with all the other things that our tax money pays for. We're one of the lowest taxed counties in Washington state. So Mr. Eldred, when you say we are not doing anything, I'd say I'm sorry. That is factually incorrect on many of the things that Commissioner Christopher said, on top of all of the other things that this county does to provide for your safety, your security, and the core functions, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's the assessor's office, whatever it is, those primary duties of the county. Right now, we're also going to be starting up crisis services in the next month, and that will be hiring employees that are going to live and work in this county to fulfill a needed position and a needed role. That is all economic development. Sad to say. Miss Arnold, I did receive the invite and I wish that I could go, but speaking on that mental health, I will be in a meeting with Melina about the future of mental health in this county at that time, so I will be unable to make it. With regards to the broadband, having worked for the county and been the person that worked on broadband, you are right. We had a large push about 3 years ago for the state broadband office's speed test results. And what that showed is that we have huge gaps in the county without access to broadband. I have since went back and looked more recently about the broadband speed test and what used to be entire big holes in the county that had absolutely zero access to broadband. Those holes are being filled primarily by Starlink that Commissioner Christopher just brought up, because you get to see who the service provider is. And so anywhere in Klickitat County, someone can have access to broadband that's near 100 Mbits download with 10 to 20 Mbits upload. Is it cheap? Absolutely not. It's $100 to $130 a month. Can you hopefully in the future get, for people who are low income, get subsidies for that? Yes, that is something that we support and that we've been pushing for. On top of that, there's the cost of the installation. And, that's $500 or $600 per person or per residence when you hook it up. Do I think that's a large cost? Absolutely. Do I think that is a astronomical cost? Absolutely not. When I look at what the cost is per person or per passing for fiber to the home, you're looking at $8,000 to $9,000 per passing. I think 500 sounds a lot better if you're the one who has to pay for it. If the government's paying for it, that's a whole different thing. But we are working on broadband and working for hopefully grants for fiber to the home. And the county would be the signatory on that grant application. So we are working on broadband. What I can tell you is that the Starlink, the Elon Musk program has completely changed the landscape in Klickitat County because now people who want to telehealth or telework are now eligible and able to telework from anywhere in this county. They can have a house 20 miles from the nearest power and still do that. We are seeing increased pressures from people wanting to move here from the cities because now you finally have access to internet. So with the good, there comes some troubles and some difficulties. But broadband, I believe, is no different than power was in the 1930s with rural electrification. And and I will support the broadband implementation anywhere in the county. And I'm sorry that, it does show that you are served. CAF $2, which was federal subsidies, were used in the Trout Lake Valley. And everyone is supposed to have DSL service, but sadly, the DSL provider can't provide what we would call broadband, which is the FCC minimum now of 25 down and 3 up. With regards to solar and solar batteries, thank you, Commissioner Christopher, for being willing to attend that. I got that email as well on battery storage. I firmly believe that industrial scale battery storage can, if not done properly, be a safety threat to communities. I'm well aware of the town that had to be evacuated due to the out of control runaway fire on those battery storages. And that is why anything that needs to go through the process to install battery storage will have to answer a lot of questions and put those batteries in a place that will protect the communities around them. That is part of the process. Nobody has went through the process in Klickitat County. We have not seen that go through the process, but you can rest assured that I have the same questions you do with what is the setback necessary? How big does the footprint need to be? Where is the prevailing winds going to go if there is a fire? How do you put them out? I've been researching the battery issues because a lot of things that we are doing in this state and in this statehood on battery storage. If you listen to Governor Inslee, he wants industrial batteries in everyone's garage, for the revolution of your battery powered car. These are all the same batteries. In fact, the batteries that they want to put in a lot of these industrial scale solar plants are the batteries that they're pulling out of the cars as they're running out of time, their life expectancy, because batteries degrade over time. And so that's where a lot of these batteries are going to go. Do I think there needs to be safety measures put in place? Absolutely, just like anything else that we do. Do you need to have safety measures when you put them in your house? Absolutely. I was at a conference just last week where what they're using on these lithium-ion batteries is it's layers of glass, pelletized glass above them. So if the battery catches on fire, it will melt this glass, this little sheath, and then the glass will fall onto the battery and it'll encapsulate the battery and put the fire out. It's really interesting. That's what they're planning on. That's what they're talking about doing in the new airplanes that are going to be all battery powered. So there's nothing worse than being in an airplane and having a battery go out and start on fire. So there's a lot of creative things and revolutions in technology that are coming our way. And yes, we're all interested. And do I mock it? Absolutely not. What I say is that everything in life is risk versus reward. And yeah, there's a battery right next to me. Have they caught on fire? Absolutely. There's a lot of YouTube videos that show people's pants catching on fire from their lithium-ion batteries in their phones. Does that mean that we need to outlaw them or ban them or anything else? No, it means we have to take precautions and we have to ensure that the safety is paramount. With regards to solar and solar ordinances, and we've been hearing about it straight for 2 years. What I would like you to and push you to ask the question, Sherry, since you say that you're not talking about banning them. What is the setback from a house or a property line that you would be okay with? So how much of somebody else's property do you feel needs to be buffered for your area and when it comes to a setback? When it comes to a setback, say around a town, does there need to be a different setback from a town because the town has a different value than, say, one rural ranch house in eastern Klickitat County? Saying that we need to put a moratorium on these large-scale energy projects. We have one currently, Lund Hill, that has been processed. We have another one, Bluebird, that if there were true and important safety and consideration concerns that we should not permit this, I would ask you to comment during that EIS or that process when it comes to the Bluebird project, which I believe has an application in, and make your questions heard. Make sure you ask in the scoping process your concerns, and they will be dealt with. If you disagree with the answers, that I can't tell you. What I can tell you is that whenever somebody gives comments on proposals, the county responds to them, whether it's a building official or the planning officials, we respond to them and we talk to the experts. And if we don't have the answers, we hire experts. And then we charge the people that are applying for the project. Yep, you sure may, sir.
There was one more statement that was an inaccurate statement that I would like to point out, that we are continuously increasing spending. So the 2022 budget is the first budget that me and my seatmate, Mr. Anderson, had a hand in building. That budget, we cut $3.7 million.
Yeah, I can't hear Commissioner Christopher.
Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. In 2022, that budget was the first budget that me and Commissioner Anderson had a hand in. That budget we cut and lowered from the previous 2021 budget. We reduced it, the 2021 budget, $3.7 million. So that is not increased spending. That is less spending or cuts or savings, you might call. The 2023 proposed budget by departments and electeds this year is $57.9 million. This board has already reduced / cut that number to $54 million, and we're still going. So at that $54 million, that is a $3.9 million reduction from the reduction we already had the previous year, and an overall reduction of $7.5 million over 2 years. So the statement that we are increased spending, I would ask you to look at the budget book because numbers don't lie. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right, we went a little long. Okay. With that, we are going to close public comment and open public hearing. And our first order of business is establishing the 2023-2028 capital improvement plan for Klickitat County. But I will say, while Jen is walking up here, thank you to everyone in the audience and online who provided public comments this week. We will begin with me finding where we're at.
That's me. I get off the wrong page and I have to go back to where I need to be for the next one.
All right, so I am going to declare this public hearing open for the purpose of hearing to accept public testimony both in favor and opposed to the proposed 2023-2028 capital improvement plan. And we will hear from Ms. Bartley.
Good afternoon. So just a little bit, I'm gonna kind of give a brief overview of, the hearings are together basically, but I wanted to start with this public hearing for the 2023 capital improvement plan, or CIP, and the preliminary budget. In prior years, this hearing would also include the property tax levy certifications because we did it later in the year. This year, we moved up the budget process. Therefore, the levy certification it'll be done at a later date after the assessor has time to handle all the tax valuations. The legal notice that was advertised for this hearing was accurate. But inadvertently, the commissioner's agenda on the website had verbiage of prior years. Once the clerk and I realized that the verbiage was on there that stated levies,
the clerk was quick to correct that and get it posted, but the legal notice was accurate. As Commissioner Christopher has stated, the board in 21 had charged directors and department heads with 3% reduction over 2020 actual expenditures. This was done in an effort to address the structural gap that all counties face with revenues versus expenditures. And I'd like to remind everybody that we are only able to increase revenues by the 1% that was approved by the voters. But expenditures with inflation go up, well, this last month, 9%. So that is a constant battle that we are not the only county that deals with that. Every county in the state of Washington deals with that. So the board was aware that those reductions for prior years were extreme for some departments. Some departments are already run really thin, especially in the general fund. So they proposed all departments to propose a status quo budget for the 2023 preliminary budget. The total budgeted expenses the departments originally proposed was $57.9 million. After workshops throughout the month of September, between the commissioners and directors and electeds, we were able to adjust, reduce, or modify for now a total budget of $54 million. The 23 preliminary modified budget does include contractual wage increases as well as anticipated cost of living adjustment. Additional changes are the county's insurance carrier, resulting in an overall savings to the county, as well as switching the county over from long distance phone service to voice over IP for another savings to the county. The preliminary budget is just that, preliminary. There are many changes that can be made upon public input and further board discussion. The budget is built on many moving parts that continue to funnel in as I speak. Due to workshops continuing in October, the urgent need for behavioral health that is on your consent agenda today, and additional revenue that I was notified of last week, I propose that we continue the hearing until October 11th.
Okay, so we have on the agenda the CIP plan, and then there's the budget.
There, yes.
Do you want them combined, or do you want us to do?
I think you can take public comment for the CIP separately from the budget,
Okay,
if you'd like.
that's how I was intending to do it.
Perfect.
Okay, so we will start with public comment, both for and against the capital improvement plan. And we will open that up for public testimony. If you would like, give us your name and where you're from, please. You're not required to. And you have up to 3 minutes per individual. And we will begin, as always, in the room. If anybody would like to provide public testimony on the capital improvement plan, 2023 to 2028. Is there anybody who would like to provide public testimony? No? Okay, online. Is there anyone online who would like to provide public testimony on the capital improvement plan? *6 to unmute your phone. Raise your hand, turn your video on. 0088.
Yeah, Delmer Eldred, Goldendale. And just to clear the record, I did not say that you have not done anything. I said, have you done anything?
Mr.
Mr.
Eldred?
Christopher, that was my previous. And my second thing is that you people have raised just about everything there is. You're sweeping the corners for revenue. I mean, you've raised the obnoxious weed. You've raised
Mr.
road
Eldred,
taxes.
this is a public hearing on the capital improvement plan.
That's
You are
what I'm
required to
saying is,
speak to the capital
with
improvement.
with all the things that you say that you have done and increased, why do you need to do anything to increase the budget? Because the money should be there. You shouldn't have to come after more money, searching for more revenue in a supplementary plan or whatever you're calling the capital investment. You should have plenty of money. That's my comment.
Mr. Dell, a capital improvement plan is budget money the county is spending to fix things the county owns that is capital projects like buildings, basements, HVAC units, fairgrounds equipments. It is a budget that the county is expending or potentially spending to upgrade and repair its own equipment. It is not a source for revenue.
Commissioner Christopher, I know this is difficult,
Hard, I know.
but this
Sorry.
is public testimony on the capital improvement plan. We will have discussion afterwards. Thank you. I know. Is there anyone else who would like to provide public testimony on the capital improvement plan? It is if you would hold it up for the picture for the audience. It's a large sheet. You can see it in all the agenda packet
As well as the budget.
as well as in the budget
And online.
and online. This is what we spend large dollars on that are considered capital projects. Ms. Bosque.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to participate. I did go online and I saw a 187-page document. I'm not an accountant and I don't understand, definitely don't understand GAAP accounting. I was wondering, just for the public to be educated, could you highlight, could Jen highlight some of the capital or the capital improvement plan, that what the expenditures are, so we're educated on what those are? Again, I tried to decipher and I didn't understand exactly what the county was wanting to do with the capital improvement plan for the next 5 years. Is there a quick scenario on major things and how much is that going to cost in the end? What's the total cost of the capital improvement plan? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bosque.
Chairman, I'm happy to give an update on what it is if you'd like.
Not right now. We're still in public testimony. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to provide public testimony for or against the capital improvement plan? *6, raise your hand, turn your video on.
It didn't work.
You have a background thing.
I know, it's not,
You have to turn your buffer
I
thing
know.
on.
which ain't gonna happen anytime soon.
Is there anyone else who would like to provide
Green screen on me.
public testimony on the capital improvement plan?
It's not gonna work. Then we're gonna turn off all my settings. and-
Okay, last chance. Is there anyone who would like to provide public testimony on the capital improvement plan? Okay, we are going to move to clarifications of any public statements or questions of staff, etc. Now, if you would like to let everyone know.
Can I?
Yes, please.
Online, in the document that's posted, the 100 and whatever page, the first 2 pages following the table of contents is the capital improvement plan. It clearly states capital improvement on the headers and identifies each project, the amount of expense for each project per year. We are not a GAAP accounting county, we are a cash county. And capital improvement revenues come from REIT, which is restricted to capital improvement only, so it is funded by its own dollars.
Thank you, Ms. Bartley.
And I will add that this budget packet or this agenda packet for today is only 60 pages. It's not the traditional 180 pages, it's only 60. In this capital improvement plan only takes up 2 of those pages. That would be page 11 and page 12. So the capital improvement plan, the proposed repairs by Public Works are replace an HVAC unit at Superior Court for $75,000, paint the courthouse exterior for $400,000, Replace HVAC unit number 5, 6, and 7 at the West End building for $110,000. Paint the exterior of the West End building for $20,000. At the fairgrounds, they want to installate exhibit building ceiling for $15,000 and replace the main water line coming into the fairgrounds for $150,000. And also a land purchase for drainage improvements of $20,000. And then in parks, the only thing for parks was the Wishram Park Safety Improvement Project for $25,000, which has to do with insurance coverage for what the insurance company wants us to do for safety down there, and including moving swing sets and bathrooms and whatnot. And then the other one is $10,000 for fencing for land purchase, which I believe is the purchase of the land next to the fairgrounds.
That's for 2023.
And that's for 2023. I'm not going to go through all of them because just like the road plan, just because it's on here doesn't mean that we're going to expend it on that year. And just because this is the proposed plan from Public Works does not mean that it's a gimme plan, because I've already made mention that I disagree with this plan, that I think it's a failure by the Board of Commissioners to paint the courthouse exterior for $400,000, which, yeah, sure needs done, but isn't in dire need. And in the same time, we're putting off replacing the jail roof, which currently leaks all over the equipment, until 2025. So it's my opinion this needs to change. So just because it's posted does not mean it's approved.
Well, that was a clarification if I've ever heard one. Get back to it.
Sorry, sir, you just kind of get the no BS assessment with me. At least my mic was on for that one.
That's true. Okay, I will open it up to further public comment. I don't think there's any questions I need to ask. The capital improvement plan is fairly straightforward. I would advise that the community to go on the weekly information and look up the capital improvement plan. And if there's any further public comment, I will open it again in the room and online for public testimony on the capital improvement plan. Ms. Bosque.
Thank you very much for that clarification, Commissioner Christopher. I did open the document and I do see where you're talking about, and I see that it was $825,000. I believe that's the total for this 2023, the capital improvement plan. Am I looking at that right?
Yeah, but the page that I didn't read and that I don't know that is in your binder is the beginning fund balance for this Fund 303, which is what this capital improvement fund is. The beginning fund balance of this fund is $613,000. It receives revenue in REIT or real estate excise tax in the amount of estimated $312,000 and change, and then grants in the amount of about $150,000. So total revenues it gets every year is about $462,000 that are used for specifically these items. To go with the $613,000 that is in the fund balance to use for specifically these items. So it has a total accumulation of about just over $1 million that needs to be used for community or capital improvement fund projects.
Wow, you do a great job. I thank you very much. That does make it clear. I think when I did read the $400,000 for painting the courthouse, my opinion was that the courthouse doesn't look that bad, and that seemed like a high price, but it is a big building. And if, the jail roof is leaking, that seems, if it was my house and I needed a paint job or a roof repair, I'd probably go with the roof repair to avoid further damages. So I would agree with Commissioner Christopher. So I would oppose this capital improvement plan at this point with what's listed for expenditures, because I think that the money could be spent better other places. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bosque. Is there anyone else who would like to provide public testimony for or against the capital improvement plan? Star six to raise your hand. Turn your mic on. I am not hearing any. Okay. Would you like to leave the public hearing open to written comment for the next, till the end of Friday?
Yeah, I would like to clarify something to Ms. Boske that she said at the very end before we go.
Go ahead.
You said that potentially use these for other things. I want to clarify that we really can't use them for other things other than what's already on the list. All we're really doing or can potentially do is change the order in which we do the projects. So it's not like we can take the money out of here and go pave a road with it. It's just a matter of what project in what order do we want to do.
Would you like to clarify that, Ms. Bartley?
These funds are restricted. The revenues are restricted to capital improvements.
Right.
But I think the clarification would be is that it has to be capital improvement. Not all capital improvements are on that list. There are other things that could be a capital improvement.
Could be put on the list.
Correct. That's, I just wanted to clarify
So,
that.
yeah, I don't mind if it stays open for public comment either way. I don't know that we'll get a lot of public comment, but maybe now with a little better education on what it is, somebody wants to sit down and look through it and really spend some time and ask questions and then make a comment. And if they do, I want to hear their comment. So I'm fine with leaving it open.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to leave the public comment open until this Friday for written comments, and we will have a discussion on the capital improvement plan next Tuesday.
I will make that motion to leave the capital improvement plan written comment open until Tuesday. And another, well, I guess we'll discuss it as a board on Tuesday too.
How about Friday?
Friday.
Close the business Friday so that if there are any comments, it can be.
That's fine. I would amend my motion to allow public comment until close of business on Friday.
I will step down and second the motion. All those in favor of leaving the written portion of public comment on the capital improvement plan open until Friday, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. That way, we should all be here next week so we can discuss. Look forward to any other changes you might have, Commissioner Christopher. Okay, next. We will open the public testimony for the Klickitat County 2023 budget. We will accept public testimony for and against the proposed budget. And you will have 3 minutes per individual for your public comment. Is there anyone who would like to provide public testimony on the 2023 preliminary budget? In the room? Online? Star 6, raise your hand, turn your video on. Ms. Boske.
Yes, thank you again. I would just start out by saying, again, I did scroll through that 187 pages and it was confusing. And I would oppose the budget at this point. I think that you gentlemen have a lot of work to do in front of you, and I appreciate your work. I think that there's some revenue that you gentlemen need to seriously look at. Instead of taking the revenue from the assessed values of assessed property value raising and levies, I'm asking you gentlemen to look at your budget and look at revenue possibility of the tax method for renewable energies and how that revenue can help our county. You are the legislative body, and to bring it is your responsibility, the budget of our county, It's very important. And when that revenue is out there waiting to come in, just by changing the tax method, which the Department of Revenue says you can use multiple, the combination of the tax methods, and that would highly increase the revenue to Klickitat County, probably by millions of dollars, who knows? But that's your job, to sit down, look at what revenue is out there, and stop giving corporate favors and do the highest and best use of tax method to the renewable energies as they are coming into our county more and more. And because of that, I oppose the budget, because I believe that our county has a way to bring in more revenue, and that doesn't need to be through raising the taxpayers' property assessments and our levies. So that's why I oppose it, because I don't believe our county is bringing in the revenue you're capable of bringing in, and there's no more excuses. We've done our homework with Department of Revenue. The assessor can change this, and you are in charge of our budget, and it is missing revenue that it can have. So I hope you go back to work and you try to get our county the due revenue we are owed from these renewable energies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bosque. Is there anyone else who would like to provide public testimony on the 2023 capital or county budget? Please come forward, sir.
I've got a question. My name's Peter G.
You got, we need to, in order to get it online, you got to come forward, sir. Thank you.
I just have a question. There's a lot of senior people in this county. I'm one of them. And it's getting tougher and tougher because we're all on fixed income. Yet Medicare, the secondary Medicare, I'm forgetting what the name of it is now, but it's not provided in this county, and people are leaving because they can't get medical, and it's much more difficult. Is there a way that whatever it takes to get included in that program? Because other counties can do it in their state. I don't know if you folks have looked at it seriously, because if it sends out senior people, they're the ones that have the experience to teach the younger people how to work and with a long knowledge. So if you have to leave to stay alive, that's not the way to do it. And maybe that can be included in a budget or something like that. I think it's a pretty prominent thing.
All right.
I will respond, but I have to do it in order, so gotta give me a minute.
Okay. Is that the end of your
Yes,
public
thank you.
testimony? Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to provide public testimony on the 2023 budget? Is there anyone else who would like to provide testimony on the 2023 budget? Third and final chance. Is there anyone who would like to provide public testimony on the 2023 budget? Not seeing any. I will open it for my seatmates for any questions, clarifications of public statements, or sad comments.
Okay, yes, I agree with you, Mr. or Sir, and my mother-in-law is the same way. trying to find Medicare Part B and nobody offers it. Because what essentially it is because we are, as a county, a poor and impoverished county. The insurance companies deem us a fiscal risk. We're going to cost them more money than they're going to make, so they don't want to insure us. Unfortunately, through pressure at the state, we were, or at least some of us were very hopeful that the governor would push back because he has the ability to regulate what insurance companies can operate in this state. And he can do something by saying that if you provide insurance in our state, you have to be willing to provide insurance in every county of our state, because there's a couple of our counties that aren't covered. Unfortunately, him and so far the legislature have chosen not to act on that. Maybe because they get big donations from insurance companies. I don't know. That's speculation. But it does upset me because there's really, at the county level, nothing we can do unless the state insurance commission regulates those insurance companies and mandates them that they must provide insurance in our county if they're going to provide insurance in any county in the state. So I would say it's a good cause. Get in touch with your state representatives, Gina Mossbricker, Chris Corey, get them back on this issue, and there needs to be a change, but not really, it isn't part of our budget, but I 100% agree with you because I have a family hurting as well, so.
Would you like to ask any questions or clarify any statements that directly impact the 2023 budget?
Absolutely not, sir.
Okay. Budget 101. Klickitat County, as was stated earlier today, the county in our budget, in terms of raising levies, which was brought up during public testimony, we get to raise the levy 1%, which we chose to do this year, which we have chosen to do every year, because that is what by law we're allowed to do. And that equates to roughly $50,000. Where that money comes from, whether it comes from a renewable energy project that's personal property or it comes from your personal house, we don't get to decide that. That is through the assessor's office, and that it comes to the assessment. That is not part of the hearing today. But what I can say is that we do look for that revenue any way we can, and we do lobby the state legislature to make changes to how that those assessments with regards to renewable energy is created. With that said, opposing the $57 million budget because revenue should come from a different source within the county doesn't hold a lot of weight for me. We are a budget-based county where all of our departments and electeds give us what they need, what they feel they need to operate, and the county commissioners look at that entire budget book that's sitting over there that's 3 or 4 inches thick, and we look at what revenues are going to come in that we reasonably expect because it's a budget. Sometimes the revenues don't come in like we expect them to. Sometimes they come in more than we expect them to. And we do the best we can to try to set the priorities. And so when we take the public testimony on the budget, it's kind of like the capital improvement plan. It comes down to priorities and what the county and the citizens of this county prioritize. And if we hear overwhelmingly that we prioritize senior services and we need to put more money and more effort there, then we will take that into consideration. If we say we need to prioritize or the solid waste department, That's what we need to hear, is what from the community, the 3-inch book, what are the priorities? And that then allows us to make some changes as we go through. Priorities become, in an environment of high inflation, 9% inflation, and you only get 1% more money, that prioritization becomes more and more and more important. You already heard from Ms. Bartley and Commissioner Christopher that we've already cut $3.5 million from the asks of what we have heard from the uh, department directors and the electeds feel they need in order to do what they need to do. We've already cut $3.5 million because we only know we're going to have so much in revenue. And it has been this board's decision that we are not going to continue to pull money from the reserves in order to balance the budget. One thing that we have to know and understand is that nearly 70% of all the money that we bring in and, that we spend is on people. And so last year, when we cut $3.5 million, we cut no staff that I can recall. We didn't hire staff in the positions that people wanted, that directors and electeds felt we needed, because we're trying to not deficit spend. But we cut all the little easy things. We extended the ER&R on vehicles. We did a lot of, cost cutting. Well, this year, we're still, in this budget, about $1.5 million of cuts that we should probably be making. It is currently a balanced budget, but that balance is by using both more money from the landfill, but also from the fund balance, which the budget is balanced, but you're still spending more money than you make. And to me, and I know Mr. Christopher in the past, that to him, that was not a balanced budget, even though it is a balanced budget. So we've got more to do, and that's where we need to hear from the community on what those priorities are, because the next cuts from here on out, as inflation continues and we only get to raise revenues 1%, is only going to get worse and harder and tougher to make. And those decisions are going to have more of an impact on the community and the services that we can provide. So with that, Commissioner Christopher.
You opened it up for me. Yeah, I wanted, since you were giving a little bit of an education there, which I think is really good for the public, I wanted to add that they heard this 1% number from our financial professional, and you was talking that we can only raise 1%. That 1% is of the property tax. So in the general fund, property tax is essentially $5 million. So if you can raise it 1%, that means we get to raise the tax 1% of that, or $50,000, which is what they explained. Now, if you do kind of a general math in the county, there's 24,000 residents in the county. So yes, this county is responsible for raising every resident's property tax $2, which again does not keep up with inflation at 9%, or just COLAs, cost of living adjustment for wages, and benefit adjustments in the neighborhood of 350,000. So hence the reason why this county is looking for other revenue sources or better fiscal management, like the finance manager said, changing insurance companies, which Mr. McCune's online. He asked this question a year ago of what our insurance company costs us a year, and the answer was $1.4 million. The answer to the new insurance company is $800,000. We'd have to pay some gap insurance, what have you. But anyway, there's a cost savings there because we looked into saving money. We saved money with cell phone or phone coverage changes. That's what we're doing to try to get by. So we are doing what we can to raise revenues without actually raising revenues on taxpayers. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Yes, of course.
To go further in depth into what you were saying in regards to the 1.5, the 1.25, that we're still trying to work on, is out of the general fund. The general fund is essentially required services, filled with unfunded mandates, court services, justice law, those types of things, that the state legislation continues to pass down onto the counties to provide, with no revenue source to back it. And yes, 70% of the general fund is people.
Thank you, Ms. Bartley. Would you be entertained leaving written comment open until Friday on the budget as well?
Fine with that.
Well, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
How long are we gonna keep the actual? We're just leaving written comment open. How long are we, when are we gonna have our next hearing? We're just gonna
We're
close this
continuing-
before December 31st, right?
I propose, there's some procedural stuff that I have still waiting to hear back on. So I propose that we keep this, we continue this hearing for the statutory 5 days, business days, so next Tuesday. And hopefully I'll have an answer by then.
Okay, I think I can do this. Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue this hearing 5 days from now on Tuesday, the 11th, leaving written citizen comment open until Friday, the 7th of October.
I will step down and second the motion. I was just trying to process whether we wanted to leave public or the testimony open until next Tuesday as well.
Doesn't matter to me either way. I can change the motion.
No, it's fine. I second the motion. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I would like to say thank you to Ms. Bartley, to all of our directors and other electeds. Putting together the preliminary budget is a gargantuan task, and you have done an excellent job in making it so that Commissioner Christopher and I can follow along and understand it and have to make those tough decisions. So thank you very much, ma'am.
Yep. And I would like to say thank you as well, and also to the public. Just because we're kind of heard this public hearing does not mean this budget process is over for at least a month or so to come, because we will still have budget hearings and we will still be making cuts. So, yeah.
Okay. Next up, Building Director Lynn Ford, Budget Workshop. Oh, isn't that just hit weird? Glad to see you back.
Yes, glad to be back. Planned to be here, 2 weeks ago, but
Yes, you did. You missed out on all the fun.
no, darn it. The 2023 Building Department request represents the revision of a board-directed 28.2% increase to fees to rely less on the general fund and shift more of the cost to the actual applicants rather than the general public. It shows an estimated 30% decrease in permits using projections and best guess scenarios of what the market next year will do. There's no good way to know exactly what to anticipate. Planned expenditures include the likely adoption of the 2021 code cycle, purchasing of the 21 code books, public hearings and revisions to handouts, and any notifications we need to make to contractors. We don't have a date for sure of when we will adopt the 21, but it's anticipated to be July of next year. 3 staff members will be attending the annual continuing education training after 2 years of having no education trainings, which keeps our CEUs current and active, and it will cover the revisions to the 2021 code cycle. The training better helps us understand and interpret code and administration of those duties, and establishes relationships with counterparts across the state. They have also contributed towards the plans examiner and the permit technician working towards their ICC certification now that we are able to have some trainings going again. There may be some large commercial projects pending. There are some in the works, but we don't know if they will occur next year or if it'll be 5 years from now. The housing market, best we could tell, tentatively remains strong, at least through a portion of 23, because the need for housing still exists. But we anticipate more small-scale projects next year rather than large ones with the economy and inflation and difficulty finding materials and equipment. We will continue, when we're not as busy doing plan review and inspections, continue on archiving the massive amount of files and drawings that we're responsible for. We're, still working on 50+ years of accumulation, scanning and saving those things digitally. Beyond these, we have no other significant changes that we are planning. We are doing our best to postpone vehicle replacement until 2024 of our secondary vehicle. Lately, we have been sending two inspectors out quite a bit just because of the schedule being so full, and it has acted up off and on. So we're hoping it'll behave itself. It's almost 150,000 miles, but we're doing our best to not have to replace it until 2024 budget. The rest of our planned expenses are simply the cost of doing expense, fuel, materials, performing our job duties. And that is all I have on my memo for 2023.
Questions?
Lot.
Go ahead.
Revenues. I don't know if you have that page or Jen has that page. Nobody has that page. Oh, I was gonna throw it online, but we don't have it up there. No, that's fine. I understand you looked at your revenues and forecasted what looks like more of a worst case scenario. But I guess I would say based on history and whatnot, I don't know that I would have went as draconian as you went. So it is my opinion that we bring some of these revenues up a little bit, not necessarily up to what they are currently. But dropping like the permit fees from 370,000 down to 259, that's a big drop. And by my math, it's 327 is about the right number. But I don't know how adequate or how interested the board is about adjusting plan review fees.
The 30% was very drastic, but I would prefer to be drastic and have a good surprise versus project maybe a 20% less and then have it be more. But I will do whatever the board directs us to do and have Cindy.
So in essence, though, are you estimating it even more than that? Because the fees are going to go up a percentage.
Right.
So you're in essence, by my math, actually thinking about a 50% decrease in permits.
Right.
And
which we're hoping is not the case, but we have no idea what to expect next year. None whatsoever.
And that's me. I don't mind erring on the side of caution, but to try to expect a 50% or try to forecast a 50% when I guess I would say during the recession or the housing crisis of 07, 08, 09, it went down a little bit, but not
that
amount.
much,
So
right.
I don't know in all of the financial information I've been led to believe is downturn, yes. Red lines and whatnot, no. So it would be my recommendation to boost this a little closer to what I feel would be a potential reality while still being on the low end to provide some safety.
So rather than 30%, drop that to 10%?
I have permit fees, my math came out at 327, as opposed to this year was 370. My number's 327, her estimate is 259. So mine would be a reduction of 45,000, hers was a reduction of 110,000. Because I would, like him, was adding the increased fees in there and then removing from there. And then plan review fees, I actually have it 155. You're at 171. You want to drop to 119. I have them at 155. And to be honest, I did the math 2 months ago. I don't remember exactly what math I used.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah.
And our report that Cindy ran yesterday, we're actually very good for September.
So that,
Right.
So,
but we had like July or something that was.
yeah. But we
Well, I
will
was
make
trying
those
to go back on the
revisions.
report and see some commonalities come back, and it's just every year makes no sense. It's kind of all
Yeah.
over the place. And
Yeah.
and I don't see any different this
So we
year.
did go drastic.
Well, you did.
But hopefully it's not even close to that. But we will make those revisions to our budget. Permit fees is 327,000. Plan review fees, 155,000.
If you guys are okay with that.
I'd say put a note next to it and say this was Christopher's ball,
Guesstimate.
Christopher's crystal ball, and we'll see how far off we are. I'm fine going with that.
Okay. Expenses, you have about 95,000 more of expenses for wages and benefits. What is that? Is that a person or is that just wages?
That's the change to categories. If Megan gets her certification, she'll be a permit specialist instead of a technician. That goes up a grade.
So does that include COLAs or no COLAs?
Don't know if it- I don't think it included COLAs.
That was just current employees going up grade levels.
I'd have to look back. We did it a while ago now.
Yeah, that's kind of the,
I still have
refreshed
foggy,
my memory months ago.
yeah,
and
foggy brain.
Is that, I mean, it just seems like 95 grand is a huge number for just COLAs and grade levels.
We used the little formula calculator.
Yeah, I mean, you used a new one, so I'm wondering if it was essentially just, the old way versus the new way playing a part, plus the pay grade jumps. I couldn't find it.
Well, and then this year we had the reclassification of two of our staff members.
Plan
as well.
examiner and, right.
Had
So 3 employees went up with grade, which is
Two went
Two
up,
went
two
up
went up.
grade.
Yeah.
6%. One will go up when she gets her certificate.
right, and
And
then
then
Dave
the
will go up
plans
again.
Would be
Well, as I said, I could figure
that's
out
still a
30,
lot.
I could
Mhm.
figure 35,000 for COLAs and 35,000 for pay grade adjustments, but geez, where's the other 30?
And we tried to,
It just seems like a big number.
yeah, we tried to figure it out as well, but we were using that online formula, so we didn't
Maybe it
know
was
how
the
to.
last number that was wrong and not this number.
Yeah, we didn't know how to correct that or fix it because it was that little, the
I
formula.
guess I would say maybe if Jen can take one more
The
look at
chart.
that, just to make sure she doesn't see anything
When I
super
ran
exciting.
my numbers, based on my roundabout, I came up with 45,000 but I didn't get the extra pay grade from somebody else going up.
Right,
But I still don't see how 45 becomes 90. So just
yeah.
look into it again
And see if
and run
maybe it
off
was a calculation type
somewhere.
in that formula.
Yeah. Any further questions?
I'm thinking.
Am I able to clarify something for this year, or is that going to be,
Potentially go into next year.
yeah,
You
potentially?
can clarify.
Okay, for 2022, we've been made aware that when we separated code enforcement out from building, that there wasn't a bars number created for the benefits portion. So that has been coming out of building versus separate from code enforcement. This is what we've been told. And so we don't know for this year, do we shift anything between the bars numbers of code enforcement and the building department bars numbers? Because we're trying to figure out how much, if any, supplemental we need to ask for. But with that bars number issue, we're not sure which direction to go to finalize our 2020.
We had a conversation about this.
Benefits budgeted in code compliance, which there is under the code compliance benefit bar, or by the bar number. But wages and benefits as a whole are already bottom line number. So it's already there for you to use.
Okay, okay.
In 23, we just make sure we budget code compliance benefits.
And that's what I wanted clarification. Is it there for us to use or are we not allowed to?
No, it's there for you.
Okay.
Because it is the system.
Is recognizing it as,
As building inspector
okay,
benefits.
okay,
And it is there within the department as a bottom line number, so.
okay. All right, that's what we needed to clarify, so we knew how to finish out our year.
Okay.
What is building IF supplies? $9,500 up from 6,000 last year.
Fuel.
That's just fuel.
Mhm. We're going farther and farther out to do inspections. And the cost of gas is gonna
Yep.
Yep,
Okay, other questions?
I think that's all I have.
All right, let's
All right.
make some changes
We
and,
will make those corrections.
all right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Sorry, I was out sick 2 weeks ago.
It's all right. It's not always bad to be the last. Okay, let's move on to findings, conclusion, and decision in support of the board's decision Tuesday, September 27th, in the matter of the Klickitat County Code, Chapter 2.7.2, relating to land development fees. Chi, would you like to come forward? If you walked all the way down here, you gotta come to the hot seat.
Just in case you have questions. So attached in your packet is a draft ordinance capturing what we talked about last week for the fee amendment. And the draft ordinance has been reviewed and approved as to form by the prosecutors. So if that is consistent with your motion, then please go ahead and sign the ordinance.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Did you have?
Been reviewed by the prosecutor, which is what I was looking for.
That's only reviews to
I know.
form.
And I want to point out that this is in effect January 3rd, 2023.
Yes.
Yep.
So if you're online, make sure you get all of your stuff done before January.
I know, I got a boundary land adjustment I've been debating on whether I wanted to do for the last, 2 years, and now this might push me into making that decision.
Okay, we asked to bring the findings and conclusion. We don't need a motion to, oh, we need a motion to sign it. Would you like to accept? Yeah. Oh, yeah. My computer. Yeah, I would entertain a motion.
So you're looking for a motion to accept the matter of changing Klickitat County Code, Chapter 2.72, relating to land development fees, correct? Or you want something other than that motion? Because I don't have it in a packet here.
Conclusions.
Discussion, just as it says there.
I have to find it, that's the thing. Got it, there it is. Oh, oh, there it is. All right, I make a motion to accept the findings, conclusions, and decision in support of board decision of Tuesday, September 27, 2002, in the matter of Klickitat County Code, Chapter 2.72, related to land development fees.
I will step down and second the motion. Any discussion? Thank you, Mochi, for all your work you put into this. All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the findings, conclusion, and decision for 2.72 land development fees signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you,
Thank
Mochi.
you, commissioners.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your hard work, ma'am.
Okay, next up, department update, Senior Services Director, Aaron Carter.
Sharon.
You only do it for her.
I'm a little wound up today.
I know. And you don't even drink Red Bull anymore.
I did this morning, my first one in a month.
Oh.
My last one in the fridge.
Don't die on me now.
Okay. So I just wanted to provide some updates from my last update about some specific to transportation. So last update talked about the Columbia Area Transit applying to the Consolidated Grant Program to do some weekend fixed route service for Bingen white salmon because they already operate weekend service in the gorge on the Oregon side. And there had been requests for this, but we don't have the capacity within Senior Services Mount Adams to do that. So I did meet with Kat as well as the Bingen and White Salmon city officials, and they actually are supportive. They're willing to provide the match funds to do that. It's just a summer service. So summer weekend service that they will be applying for, and the city of Bingen and White Salmon will provide that match funds, the match funds to be able to do that. So that will be able to provide, and we'll be able to communicate with folks about that option for that weekend service. They did do a trial. They had some COVID funding last summer, and they did a summer service kind of last minute, and that they had really good results from that. And I think that's in part why we had people requesting to do that service. So this is something where we'll be able to have some additional service for folks, but that's not going to be any funding out of Klickitat County specifically for that. And that's if they get the funding. So that grant application is due this month, along with the other ones. And so the other item, I had a request from actually KVH, Klickitat Valley Hospital, if we would be able to pursue they feel like they would benefit, that we could benefit from having a bus shelter at Klickitat Valley Hospital. And they had asked if potentially we could, Mount Adams, Senior Services Mount Adams could do an application to the WashDOT Consolidated Grant Program for this, where they would actually, though, provide the match for permitting, installation, and the match funding to be able to do a shelter. And so that's one of the, I guess, the questions, is that something the board is okay with in terms of doing that? This application is due the 27th. I'm working on the other applications for our existing service. So whether or not I could have everything in place, but again, it's not asking for any financial support from the county. They're indicating that they would provide any match or support, but obviously there is my time in doing that, but there's definitely, a benefit for the folks accessing the service to be able to have an actual shelter versus our current stops, which are, sandwich board Mount Adams transportation stops. So I guess that's one of the items where I wanted to find out if the board was okay with moving forward with that, if I can get what's needed, in time for that application.
Do you have anything else you'd rather be applying for?
No, in terms of, there's other things that, based on feedback from citizens, that, and there's a list of items within the plan, which actually, the Human Service Transportation Plan that's just in the process of being updated currently, and that was one of the items that I have here is, Klickitat Valley Health also pointed out items they feel from the Human Service Transportation that are high priority items, needs. And, one of the items that has regularly come up, but we, again, don't have the capacity to do so in our current funding, is, after hours, 24/7 transportation, in terms of dial-a-ride service. So, some of what regularly has come up from, hospitals and providers is they would like to be able to call when they've had citizens that have been transported, say, by ambulance to the hospital emergency room, but then they're not admitted and they need a ride back home. And they don't have family or somebody else that can get them. They've run into, challenges with people being able to get home. Right now, they would have to wait till our regular business hours to do that. One of the challenges in the past, both myself and my operations managers had made ourselves available with our cell phones after hours and on weekends for calls like that, where we had hospital discharges that needed rides home. And we ran into some real challenges where there were people that, where we would call and find a driver that was willing and able, because we don't have the resources to have somebody on call on payroll. And so we had drivers that had expressed an interest in being willing to help out in those instances. But then we also have to go through some protocols in terms of making sure they haven't had any alcohol in X period, because of our criteria with FTA and DOT. And then where the barriers ran into is a lot of times we had coordinated and we have a driver go there and they would arrive and the person somehow managed to get a ride from somebody else home and they didn't call and cancel, and we expended those resources and time, with exempt staff too, getting calls at all different hours. And then more of the issue came though when we were having issues with people that we would go pick up and they really weren't in any condition to be transported with a service that, where we had people that were semi-conscious, or we got to the home and they
Charge from the hospital that way?
and they
Going to the hospital that
no,
way?
this is home. And or we would arrive at the home with somebody that, wheelchair transport, and they had no accessibility into their home. And when you're talking late at night, middle of the night, early morning, weekend, it's not like you can easily get, or something else. And so we had enough of those situations that I had decided this isn't working. We're not going to do this. This was something we were trying to help, because it wasn't like it was constant, but we were running into a bit more issues with the status where it was somebody we really needed to be able to evaluate more thoroughly, because we felt there was a potential liability issue too, as well as, kind of health and safety with our drivers. And so we said we weren't going to be able to provide that, and really sticking with what our primarily hours of operation are, which are typically, 7 to 7. Monday through Friday, with some, obviously we have exceptions in that for that, where we've got people that have surgeries and things and we've coordinated transportation. So typically what we've indicated to, hospitals and providers is that they would just call us that next morning, and then we work out what we can in terms of transportation. I mean, I think the other issue is wanting the on-demand kind of medical taxi service, and we don't have the capacity to always have a vehicle and a driver on standby. So there are times that we do get calls even during business hours from hospitals or medical providers, and they're like, this person needs a ride, and we say, okay, we could do it, but it's going to be 2 hours from now, because that's when we have a driver available after this other ride. And it's like, no, we need them to go now. And it's like, well, we don't have that ability to on demand. And so So I know that's, obviously there's issues that have come up, I think, too, with folks that have had, mental health crises and transports. Again, we're available and we really work to try and make, help people and get things arranged, but we don't have, that would take quite a bit of money to have a person and a vehicle on standby 24/7. So I don't know how realistic it is to do that even with some support, so. And then the other item that, people have requested is more of a connection with our fixed route between, that gap that is between Dowsport and Bingen White Salmon. Because right now, the routes are Goldendale to the Dows via Wishram and Dowsport, and then White Salmon, Bingen Hood River. But in terms of our discussions and budget was that wasn't something that the board was supportive right now of looking at something that was going to cost more money. But I mean, because even continuing existing services will cost more money given that the cost of staff wages and benefits and fuel and all that is increasing. So the best shelter isn't going to be, it's not like it's a huge, if they're indicating that they would provide that match. The issue is whether I can get all the materials to even get a full application together by the 27th, but wanted to make sure the board would be supportive of moving forward with that because you're the ones that give permission for what I apply for.
My personal opinion is that it would be nice to have a bus shelter at every spot you have a little sandwich board sign. It's just a matter of whether the county can pay the $10,000 match kind of thing to do it, or whatever the cost is. So if KVH or somebody else is interested in covering that match, I am more than happy to, well, I was gonna say more than happy to direct you to spend your time to write the grant, but to ask you to spend your time to write,
Okay.
support the grant. If you can get that into your schedule.
Okay, great. And then, there is a request that I'll be looking at to see time on the board's agenda in the future months where Kathy Fitzpatrick with MCED is the mobility manager for our region, and that too wants to kind of provide an update to the board, which she's done in the past regarding some of the strategic planning on transportation within the gorge. And some of the work that's going on with that, because they're looking at a number of different areas that, and they just kind of want to update as that's going forward. So I think she was looking at probably December, wanting to come and just chat and provide some updates. So I'll be looking at some dates for that. The other item I wanted to just add is we have 2 openings on the senior advisory board currently. Cindy Blumel, who was in Lyle, actually relocated to Prosser, Washington, moved out of the area. So that opened up a position there. So we do currently have 3 representatives for District 1, 3 for District 2, 1 for District 3. We need at least.
Historically, I mean, since I've been here and even beforehand, District 3's been underrepresented on this board. And the majority of the people I've approached and said, hey, by the way, do you have any interest? Are all like, no. Is that historically the way it is?
No, actually, I think we always had a lot more from Goldendale. I mean, it just cycles with different things. And I think right now the challenge is, volunteers. I mean, just like with recruiting paid staff, we kind of have that same even recruiting volunteers. I mean, our volunteer levels through the pandemic really went down, and it's definitely slow to build back up. I just know a number of the people that I've spoken to that have expressed interest, and when we've talked about it, there are also people that are very involved in a lot of other things, and they kind of say, oh, I don't feel like I can give that level of commitment. I just have a lot going on. I just think people have a lot happening. So I don't think there's any specific reason for that. I mean, and we.
There seems to be a lot of really good ideas and not as much motivated
follow through.
I mean, there's plenty of volunteers, but
Yeah.
there's plenty more people that want to tell the volunteers how to do their job than there are actually volunteers. And that's unfortunate.
So we'll definitely, still continue to, try and get the word out, encourage people, but I didn't know if you had anybody in mind. I mean, the bylaws have indicated that typically we want at least 2 from each district, so we would definitely, one of those would need to be, it said, it doesn't say it has to be 2, but the preference is to definitely fill that where there's more of 2 from each district, but a total of 9 we want. So with the advisory board, though, we've usually been happy with anybody that wants to, commit to having that time and give feedback, but we would certainly like. And I know we had a couple of people that came from Goldendale last meeting. Well, one person that came had somebody she was trying to get to volunteer. But they decided they weren't, again, ready to commit to, doing it, so. And we are doing, a Zoom / in person, so if a person doesn't feel comfortable and we've been also rotating the sites so that people have an opportunity to have it in one of the 3, areas, Goldendale, White Salmon, and Dallasport, so.
Yeah, as far as, I mean, being the District 3 commissioner, I would like to make sure we reserve at least one of those 2 spots for a District 3 person, if a District 3 person comes forward. But if there's somebody from somewhere else that wants to take one of the 3 spots, I'm fine with that too. Because you need adequate people on the board, and with the history we have, as long as we leave one spot open, I'll keep shopping. Maybe we'll get something.
Okay.
That's my opinion anyway.
We already have 3 from 1 and 2. I'd prefer if we get 2 from District 3 would be my preference.
Yeah.
So, look hard, turn over rocks.
Yeah, and I can also maybe check Bickleton, Market Street Cafe, the Market Street Cafe owner, we're looking at reopening. They've done a meal there and it's been with COVID, and right now we're looking at resuming there, and maybe some of the people that participate, we might get somebody from Bickleton.
If they have access to be able to have a good enough internet to stream, where they can come on a Zoom, that might work.
Yeah. Or in person, some
I don't
folks
know if
might
they're
want to.
gonna drive that far, especially all winter long, but.
All the way to White Salmon.
Yeah, if they can do it remote via Zoom, I think they're game.
Yeah, and then they can also call in. I mean, it can be, because the Zoom has the option for a phone call in, because we have had that issue with Glenwood and stuff like
We have
that.
to go to the senior center on a Tuesday when they're doing meals and just hand out rocks. And whoever draws the 2 painted rocks gets to be on the, you're in. What? Show up and find out.
Okay,
Anything else?
I think that's it, unless you have anything for me.
I'd say if you have time and you want to apply for that, go ahead.
Okay.
It won't conflict with CAT applying, is it? They're not applying, are they applying for the same dollars?
Well, I mean, in a sense, because they're with the Consolidated Grant Program, there are a certain number of project ranking, you get ranked, you get more points for certain ranking of projects, but typically the projects that with the RTPO and RTC, it's been the tradition to existing projects get those high rankings and operations. And so, but again, even when we've had projects that have had a low ranking in that, because there's been a lot of applications, we've still received funding because it's just a portion of the scoring. And so I don't think, it definitely wouldn't affect our actual dial-a-ride operating and our fixed route operating service. And from what we've, again, been told is that they feel like there's some additional funds available in this go-round, but.
My next question is, so right now, CAT doesn't come across really the river, correct? To our side? It's all Mount Adams. But if they get this grant, then cat's gonna be coming into white salmon, and is that going to muddy the waters in terms of when people think that, there is service and what bus and how am I doing, You see that as
Well,
being
I
an
mean, they
issue?
did do it they did it last summer, for like July, August, and part of September. And, their buses are clearly marked as cat buses. We've emphasized that it's, weekend service that they're doing. We would just still continue to communicate that if they received,
Was it on the
funding.
same time schedule that you were doing it during the week, so people had or was it, completely different?
It was different, because it's fewer trips, but it's similar. They are providing within kind of, in terms of the similar stops, but the weekday service in terms of where some of the needs were like within situ or that too, which is part of when, with some of the employer stops, that is different, in terms of weekends. So some of what's been discussed too, though, is weekend service. That one of the requests that had come up with some of the migrant workers that are in white salmon area, well, they're actually kind of Mount Adams Farms out there, Mount Adams Fruit. They were wanting, some transportation on Sundays, because that's the day off that many of the people have. And so there's been some discussion about whether making sure to have a route that would be able to pick up those folks on that weekend to get them over and back and forth.
So all the way up to,
No, not going all the way up there, but going within where they may be able to, their van could meet at a closer location in the White Salmon Bingen area. So there's just discussions related to that, but CAT would be doing 6 trips, I think is what they're proposing, is doing currently with the Monday through Friday service. It's like we do about 9 or 10 circuits. But they definitely will be they're in similar locations so that people would be familiar, but they do still have the cat sandwich board sign. So people know exactly where it's in, and they'll do some outreach and education about it. Because they currently do the link, like even in the Dalles, the link only does weekday service, and then CAT does their weekend service out to the Dalles.
can we get ridership numbers on last year to see if it was used and how much use it got?
I do have the ridership numbers that I can send you for their weekends. I got from, because that's part of what CAT will be including, is showing that. And that one, though, it wasn't, again, something that would have been advertised a lot, but I think they still had pretty decent numbers for folks that were riding on with that. But I think likely there would be a lot more with some outreach and education. And it has been something that I've gotten a number of emails this year on, are people that have utilized Columbia Gorge Express service, and they wanted to come over the Washington side, but they got up here and realized, okay, the weekends, I guess I can't get over to Washington because there isn't a service. And so I had a number of emails that we actually, even though all of our brochures and our information said Monday through Friday, people were like, well, you need to say no weekends. So we have it on the website for Gorge TransLink too, no weekend service right now, so people would know that. And then if CAT gets the grant to be able to do weekend service, we would be able to indicate on there CAT is providing weekend service and have that link to that schedule as well.
Questions, thoughts? I mean,
But since they, it made sense for CAT to do it, since they operate on the weekends, they have drivers, they have vehicles, they are really coming up, they're just gonna branch over on that one section over to Bingen White Salmon versus us not having, we don't do weekends, we don't, to be able to expand, that, even though obviously, we get requests all the time where people wish we had service 7 days a week, but.
People
It
also
takes
want
a lot more
rides
money.
home from the hospital and everything. And I
It's
mean,
the only-
And so
spending
it's,
money
it's
to do it.
pretty affordable for CAT to be able to do it. And so, and then with the cities providing the match for that, because it's only about 6,000 a year split between, the cities to provide that weekend service. And again, it's a summer weekend because that's really when, we definitely see differences and that uptick is really through those summer months. There's a lot more ridership. We've seen that from the start of our fixed route, that actually August is probably the biggest month for ridership. We definitely see a big spike.
okay. All right.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
All right. Why don't we do, would you want to move number 7 on the consent agenda into new business? We don't usually have people discussing things if it's on the consent agenda.
True. Yeah, that's what I would think.
Okay.
And then if we so move, put it back on the agenda for next week.
No, you just move it to the new business today from the consent agenda, and then they can give a presentation, since it says they're here.
If you want to do it.
Okay. All right. So let's move to new business. We have 2 things. We've got the agreement for Beacon Health. Is there any discussion on that, or are you good with it? I would entertain a motion. It's right on top of the blue card. First thing. That's why I did it.
Got it. Oh, there it is. Good call, because I missed it down below. Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the agreement and provisions for services by and between Beacon Health Incorporated in Klickitat County Public Health Department for the purpose of providing $345,629 in funding to support Klickitat County in the development of local crisis response programs.
I would step down and second the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, second thing on new business would be item number 7 on the consent agenda for the authorization for the sheriff's office to purchase from the state bid contract 3 2023 Chevy Tahoe PPVs. If the sheriff's department would come forward.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm looking around for my backup.
You always show up with backup.
I know. I know. As they indicated, we're coming to the board, see if we can get Tahoes this time around. And I'll let Eric and Karen get into the weeds of it, so there's better understanding, because to be honest with you, I'm not in the weeds of it, but I do know we have a need. So, who wants to go?
Well, we wanted to come to you guys today because last couple of years, getting vehicles has been difficult. I think last year we waited 10 or 11 months from when we ordered it to when we got it. This year, it's looking like the same thing. And as of this point right now, if we wait until even next week, we could be to the point where we may not be able to order anything for next year, the way that they're kind of doing things. So with that, and I was trying to get information from the dealerships to verify this stuff. I was told by the Chevy dealership that they have some vehicles on site that we would be able to purchase if we chose to. And so the discussion is possibly changing this year's to getting those Tahoes out of this year's budget. And the vehicles that we have ordered, keep the order, and then it would just be out of next year's budget instead, since we can't guarantee if we'll even be able to order anything next year.
And really the main reason we need to continue pursuing getting the new vehicles is we've got to get these Ford Interceptors off the road. We're starting to see an increase in the carbon monoxide issues with the Interceptors.
I think we've had,
Are you telling me that Ford has not recalled all those exhaust manifolds on those Interceptors?
And they're
Correct.
not going to, and they're not going to pay anything, and the lawsuits.
and
they're
it's
never
to the
gonna-
point that they're not even making the stock ones anymore. To replace them, we have to do an aftermarket one that's
So within the last
substantially
The
more.
month,
city of Goldendale just purchased brand new Interceptors. And you're saying those exhaust manifolds are the exact same exhaust manifolds that are on your old inventory?
No, I believe it's a new engine, but my understanding from what I've heard from State Patrol is it's the same issue. That they didn't really fix anything is my understanding, but I don't know the particulars of everything.
so as far as our Ford Interceptors are going, we've got one Ford Interceptor, and Rob's here to corroborate this, that we have got sitting in seclusion from a former employee that had high carbon monoxide levels. So we cannot, it's part of our fleet, but we cannot touch that vehicle. And then we've had 2 vehicles within the last 2 weeks that have had high levels. We've had the issues corrected, one to the tune of $4,200, the other one to the tune of $1,800, if I
So,
remember
yeah.
correctly. So we're just gonna start seeing higher bills.
But once they're fixed, are they
No,
not?
No,
this is the second
one
round
of them,
repairs.
yeah, one of them, it's the second time this year. It's because of, they're impacting stuff because of how low the exhaust hangs in the vehicle. That basically anything it's in the road, if you run over it, it'll hit something that caused damage somehow.
So if you run over something, if you hit something with it, high beam, high over something.
Low clearance, but,
Low clearance, there you go.
but the thing is, we're not unique to that. WSP, other agencies throughout the state faced with the same problems. I would never want another one of Ford's products such as that. Not only we run the risk of the carbon monoxide, but we run the risk of disabilities. We have one employee that's under that issue. State Patrol has another employee that's been off for 2 years.
I think it's been longer than that, I don't know
Yeah.
for sure.
Anyway, he sued Ford, got nowhere, because they have a bank of attorneys that deal with that all the time. And we're getting no response out of Ford making it right. So we are kind of holding the bag and trying to Band-Aid these cars together to fix the carbon monoxide. And just a few months down the road, we have another problem with carbon monoxide. I'll never be so happy to get those rigs off of our inventory completely. And
How many do we have left?
I think we got,
There's 4 or 5 still on the road. Yeah, 4 still on the road, but we have, I think, 2 or 3 is backup vehicles for other people if they.
And those are also working on getting Klickitat repaired, so could be additional.
Thank you.
cost of those.
See, the one thing I do like about the Ford Interceptor is they don't change the body style for decades. So when you get a new one every 3 years, you can take your light bar off and put it on a new one. What you guys are currently buying, you don't get to do that because they update the body style. So all the 40 grand worth of stuff you're putting on every car in 3 years is gonna probably end up being a new body style and you won't be able to reuse that stuff. Ford Interceptor, same
Would
body
you
style.
put on here which ones you
and
plan
I
on
tend
repairing?
to agree with you on that, except if they can't fix the carbon monoxide situation. And that's not to say.
The ones
Goldendale
that
won't
you're
have
gonna be
problems.
replacing
They may
with the
very
3
well
new.
End up having problems. And Ford won't stand behind it. And we're throwing good money after bad money, basically.
My point is, I'm under the understanding that the exhaust manifold problem got fixed with the engine upgrade in the new body style.
Now, you may be correct on that, I don't know.
So but you're talking about Tahoes. You want to buy Tahoes, not Durant.
Right, so we'll take.
So where are the Tahoes gonna go?
Oh, Tahoe's.
But you're gonna keep the Rams on order.
Well, yeah, because next year we'll just replace.
It would be for next year's.
So the Tahoes are going to replace the 2017, 2018, and 2017 vehicles, the first Interceptors. Okay, so now the Rams, where are they gonna go? Next year, what are they gonna replace?
The last Interceptor that's on the bottom of that list,
Okay,
and then the next oldest vehicles that'll be on that list.
And we still gotta get a range timber deputy, right?
Yeah, some of them would go up to either a administrative vehicle or timber deputy vehicle or something like that, so.
So we have this one,
Right.
and then we have a new hire that needs one,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yeah.
you look at this.
See, my problem is my biggest problem with this is that you want to order essentially 2023 vehicles today. And we are in the middle of an election that we don't know who the sheriff will be. And that sheriff might be you, might be somebody else, might have a different opinion for what vehicles they want to order in 2023. So it is my opinion that we should wait and see who wins that election before we mandate what we're doing in 2023.
Okay, and so in 2023, there will probably be no new vehicles. Because the state bid says we need to order within the next month, if not sooner, because there will be no vehicles.
That's coming from the manufacturers.
And that's why we wanted to run it by you guys and get your opinion. And, but I understand what you're saying.
Say something real quick. I think we need to look at the long-term liability. If one of our deputies is in a patrol vehicle and starts having issues with carbon monoxide, he passes out and he wrecks and he kills somebody, we're looking at an even bigger lawsuit than what we're paying out in a new vehicle. And I think that's what we're all looking at. We're looking at the long-term liability and the safety for our deputies.
Yeah, you know, politics aside, we're here to put it on the record as a request. You gentlemen will make the final decision.
So when did we put the vehicles on order for the 2022 Rams?
Back in January.
Yeah, I think it was either end of January, 1st of February.
And our plan was to have those this year.
Correct.
And it's not likely gonna be until when?
Last year it was, I don't think we actually received them until January.
Okay, so what I don't want to have happen is go out and buy 3 Tahoes today and then have 3 Rams show up in December that we have to pay for in the 2022 budget that you don't have budgeted. That won't look
That was
very good.
my concern too with it.
Okay, the other concern, I thought the last you'd said that you were gonna buy all trucks. I didn't know you were planning on buying
A mixed bag, trucks and Tahoes.
trucks and Tahoes, so right now your Tahoes are for your, just your sergeants, right?
Well, Sergeant, and it can go to the patrol, traffic and so forth.
And the thing is just that's how it worked out when we ordered them is who got them.
Okay, I didn't know if you just had a certain vehicle for sergeants versus somebody else. So is there any way to ensure that we don't get our Rams until 2023?
I could request to the dealership that if they come in December of just waiting until January to actually take, to receive them.
Okay, and then
Sis, I have another question. With the increase in cost, do you have enough money currently in the VRNR to cover the increase in cost, including the increase in stuff you're putting on them?
We will probably have to go to an increase in the VRNR.
you mean, so this year, I don't know how much, you didn't show me, oops, sorry. how much the Rams were that we were planning to get. So for the 3 Rams that we budgeted for VR&R,
Yeah, it's on, Eric had it.
If you look at your, what was in the budget for this year?
trying to bring it up, and my computer's been holding it.
We originally had 309,000 available for this year.
That's somewhere. Just gotta find the right paper here. All right. So the vehicles we ordered, to order them and outfit them and everything was 249,000.
No, that was for the Dodges, right?
Correct.
And you had how much in your fund balance? For that 249? You said you had 301 or something?
This was reading 309.
309.
So the new vehicles that you're planning to purchase that you're asking for are gonna be 309.
No, that's what was budgeted
That's what was.
in the
Okay,
budget.
budgeted, I'm just trying to, because it
Right.
says previous 2020 vehicle cost, new vehicle cost. Yeah, it says previous 2022 vehicle purchase costs for the 3 vehicles, $120,097.
So it's
That's just for the,
30,000
that's just to buy the vehicles.
car. Not all the toys that go on the car.
Right.
Not
For
the sirens, not the.
new vehicle cost is 154. So does that include? So the previous 2022 vehicle cost for the 3 vehicles is $120,000. But you had, your request was 309 in the 2022 budget for the total cost. Okay? Right. And so you're going from 2022 309 that you have on order, and you're hoping to get it in for 249 for 2022. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
The 309 was what was just put in the budget when you were figuring out the budget last year. The
Right.
249 was the actual cost when we placed the order of what it would cost to purchase the vehicles and outfit them.
And that was for the trucks.
Correct.
Okay, and the total cost for the 3 that you're hoping to, that you're asking to do this year?
I tried to factor in changes in, a 10% inflation cost with everything like equipment. And with that and the vehicle price, it came to 263, or just under 264,000.
The Tahoes are more expensive than the Rams.
Right. And I did look at if, say, we were to place an order for what the pricing they're calling for the possibility for the pickups next year, and cost-wise, it's, let me find the right formula. I think it was only $1,000 difference per vehicle compared to the Tahoes, or say if ordering pickups.
So I guess my issue that I'm looking at is when you look at the time and mileage on the vehicles, right? We're gonna have 3 vehicles at the end of this year that we were expecting to have at the end of this year, whether they were the Tahoes or the Rams. But then our Rams are gonna come at the beginning of next year versus the end of next year. So in essence, that's almost an entire year that you're bumping up your schedule, and that has a value. It's not a cheap value, it's an expensive value. When you look at the overall cost of, your fleet and managing that fleet. I fully hear what you're saying about safety and carbon monoxide and everything else and the issues with that. I'm just trying to look at the dollars and cents in the ER&R, and if you have the money available And how much is that going to change the ER&R? Because now you've replaced vehicles in essence 11 months before you had planned to, and that's a lot of miles that we didn't get out of those vehicles. Understand what I'm saying?
We do. Normally, our vehicles were coming in like May, and after COVID, due to COVID, now they're coming 6 months later.
Right.
So,
Thoughts, Commissioner Christopher?
No, just the same ones I have. The increase in budget, it's all there.
Where is, so you have one interceptor that you have just sitting there. Which one is that on here?
We also have one of our timber patrol
Oh,
trucks.
that's
that
the
is parked
seclusion.
that's not useful.
And did you fix it or it just sat there after? You're not allowed
Pending
to touch it.
litigation. It's had repairs in the past, but as soon as we were told to park it, and we had to park it and not touch it at that point. So I don't know what it has had done to it really.
There's potential.
Come on forward.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I just didn't have the history on it. All right.
so that's why we're down one in our fleet, so that if we have something go down, that means that we're scrambling.
Okay. Because you have one that's in the patrol pool that is currently being used that's
That's
spare.
our only other spare.
Right.
So
And the
if,
spares were ones that were replaced in the last 2 years that we've had to keep because we have to keep something because of other vehicles
Go
that
down.
went down and we couldn't repair them.
And I don't even drive one.
Hmm?
I use my own rig. I don't even drive a patrol.
True surplus. Okay. And the money is there available as long as we don't. And you have it in the 2023 budget for 3 new vehicles.
Right.
And what is the 2023 budget for those vehicles? What do you have in the
we
20?
were doing $100,000 a vehicle, so it's 300. Jen still hadn't completed the VR&R recalculation. She was working on that as our meeting. We were one of the first in our meetings, and so she was still working on our VR&R.
Are you in favor?
No.
Well, then we're gonna have to table this until next week. That's,
Bingo.
okay. We will, is there information that you need that would help you to make a decision by next week so that when we bring this up?
I will do some research.
And then you will reach out if there's any information you need?
From them, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Can I get the one form back?
Yeah. Just, sorry, I wrote on it.
That's okay.
And I can keep this one?
Absolutely.
Actually, if you can get me a inventory list with current mileages on them, that would be helpful.
Okay.
All right, we will table this until next week. I will look into it as well, and any questions I will bring to the two of you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want consent?
I'm ready for consent, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda with 8 items, pulling number 7.
I will step down and second the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor of the consent agenda with 8 items with number 7 pulled, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pay accounts payable warrants in the amount of $185,281.65 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $0 for the date ending October 3rd, 2022.
I will step down and second the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. I don't even see the bills. Oh, there it is. Okay, board pending. Anything else that you had on your list?
I guess my board pending would be to advise every member of the public listening, or any of the county staff listening, to sign up for Life Flight insurance. I received my bill from Life Flight for my little plane ride to Idaho for my heart attack. The bill was $94,000. So
Your life flight doesn't cover it?
well, it covers it.
Oh.
But the risk is Life Flight said they weren't going to fly me because their plane was off doing something else, and Airlift Northwest was going to fly me. Well, Airlift Northwest and Life Flight do not have a mutual aid agreement, so then I would have got a bill for $94,000 from Airlift Northwest. So needless to say, I have both Life Flight coverage and Airlift Northwest coverage. You can sign up for Airlift Northwest coverage from your hospital bed right before you fly out. So keep that in mind if you ever find yourself in the hospital. Yeah, the ambulance bill was $3,000. The second ambulance was $3,000, and Life Flight was $95,000. So make sure you're covered.
$3,000 to get you from there to the,
KDH to Goldendale Airport, $3,000. Boise, well, whatever airport I landed in over there in the dark, to Meridian, Idaho, outside of, I think it's Meridian, right outside of Boise, was $3,600.
that one, well, I guess it was a little further. of a
They
drive.
didn't even give me a burrito.
Well, I would be the first to say, make sure you're signed up for Life
Well,
Flight.
and that's the risk. So I have the Life Flight coverage through the volunteer firefighter thing. My family essentially had it through my father-in-law was buying it, but then he had an issue with his credit card. I found out after the heart attack, and the Life Flight thing hasn't been paid for this year on my family. So luckily I got it through fire. Otherwise, I was counting on them to have covering it, and they weren't.
Fire,
So,
yeah.
yeah, whoops. That was almost a very major mistake that cost me my house. That's all I have for your board pending, sir.
I think we need to have a discussion. Thursday, who would you like to have come back for budget discussions? We have,
I don't think we're picking the individual people to come back. I think this is a time for the board to discuss exactly what you're asking.
Okay.
And work with Jen and try to decide who we would like to see more of, or all get on the same page, because if say I have an issue with a line item on a budget, there's no sense calling the person back if the other two don't have a problem with it.
well, there's still a good reason to call them back, and that's so that you can feel good about it and get the
If
answers.
we want to make budget changes as a board, then I'm fine with offering those changes that we're going to make back in the public eye, but until we get a quorum, I'm not
Okay.
necessarily ready to call anybody back.
That being the case, Jen, how long do you think that Thursday is gonna take us?
I think we know where we're gonna start and where our focus needs to be, and that would be the general fund. So I would imagine maybe a half a day.
Okay. Just trying to make plans.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand. And it would be the finance team and the board, just kind of hammering out some details, asking some questions and figuring out who, if we need some departments back, who we need to call back in, and then we can get Lee a list and we can schedule for the next Thursday workshop.
Okay,
That works?
that'll work.
Okay.
Anything else for the good of the order, sir?
I do not have anything.
All right. I would entertain a motion if you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn the regular meeting. Noting that we do have a workshop starting at 9 a.m. on October 6th.
I will step down and second the motion. All those in favor of adjourning until Friday or Thursday morning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, everyone who made it all the way through the day, all 18 that was left. Thank you and have a good day.